Hi, hello, and welcome, folks, to day 3 of the 2021 NFL Draft. It is early. It is 11 a.m. here on Saturday, May the 1st, 2021, and we have the NFL Draft today, the final day of the draft here with rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock, 5 minutes between picks here today. The New York Jets will be following them up with the Atlanta Falcons. Lots of good talent still available. A couple players that we have first-round grades on that did not get selected yesterday, including Tylan Wallace at wide receiver and Michael Carter there at the running back position. Players such as Jabril Cox also stand out as far as a linebacker out of LSU, somebody that can really help a franchise. Lots of good talent still available. We did see some edge rushers go yesterday. Still a lot of good defensive linemen on the board, so we should see players such as Marvin Wilson, Tyler Shelvin, Bobby Brown going relatively early here today. The safety position, we have some very high-quality players such as Jamie Sherwood, Talanoa Hufanga, Jamar Johnson, Ardarius Washington, Sean Davis, all available. So we have some excellent players. Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC, another guy we're extremely high on, a pass-catching threat, a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, leaving after 3 years. Was opposite side of Michael Pittman just a year ago, and combined with Tyler Vaughns, who should get selected most likely in the 6th or 7th round a bit later today. So we're going to once again send it back and forth from ESPN today. The Jaguars have 5 picks today remaining in their draft. They've done an excellent job with new head coach Urban Meyer, and they're going to kick us off once again here today as they continue to add to the talent that they're building down in Jacksonville. So Urban Meyer, a very good draft yesterday, added Walker Little, a tackle that we're extremely high on, to go with the day 1 picks where they added the backfield out of Clemson, getting Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne in the 1st round. They also added Javon Holland, a safety out of Oregon. Wasn't our best player available at that position. We would have gone with Trevon Moehrig, but Holland was a 1st-round grade for us with a 26th overall player grade. So not a bad job by the Jaguars. And I do apologize. Holland went to the Dolphins. It was the Jaguars that added Andre Sisco out of Syracuse. So he was our 38th best player on the board, a playmaker, a bit of a gambler back there, but similar to a Malik Hooker, somebody that can get out there and make plays on the ball. Hooker, of course, did play for Urban Meyer coming out of college. So a similar style player that will fit in well in an Urban Meyer defense. So they have a more solid player that they had added through free agency, Rashawn Jenkins, who is a bit more disciplined and an excellent tackler. Sisco, not quite the finished product that we would like as far as a tackler, but his ability to cover center field and make a difference with turnovers and big plays is something that really shows that he has high upside. A guy that had 13 interceptions in his final 2 seasons there. So we're going to kick it over to the draft as the Jaguars pick is in. Pick 106 here to start us off on day 4.
Way to look at that draft pick. He's a good pass receiver as well. All of these guys that the Jaguars have picked so far, speed and space, with the exception of Walker Little, really talented offensive lineman who's had some injury issues.
Yeah, talking to Urban before the draft, obviously Trevor Lawrence was a big part of the reason, let's be honest, that he wound up taking that job in Jacksonville. If you're going to take a head coaching job, you got to have a quarterback, and he knew he was going to get a once-in-a-decade type of quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. But after that, he specifically mentioned that he wanted Etienne because of his explosiveness and because he can catch the football, and he's not just a running back. He's a guy that you can move around. And then you bring in Sisco at the safety position, Walker Little now the offensive tackle. And I think what they wanted to do is get weapons around the quarterback and get speed on both sides. But now I think the focus will probably shift more to the offensive and defensive lines, try to get more stout up front.
Yeah, they're a team that really needs to have their big people really come through for them, no question about it. And I'll tell you this, too, about their draft picks. Guys like Walker Little and Sisco, those are the guys, they have to get healthy. They have to be healthy.
Yeah.
They have to be on the football field. Look, Trent Baalke had a reputation for doing some of these kinds of things when he was in San Francisco as far as taking risks with guys who had injury histories. They need to make sure they hit on these guys because those two are both fantastic players. Andre Cisco, I'll just tell you this. When you compare him to all the safeties in this draft, he has as much skill as anybody.
It's like he just can't got a lot of cornerback at Georgia. He needs to be coached up, Ray. Well, one of the features of this day 3 of the draft, guys, will be taking you to draft headquarters all around the world to have announcements. The pick is in, and I understand we're going to hear from London for the Jaguars pick.
We've been on care frontline at Whittington Hospital throughout the pandemic due to COVID-19 pandemic, of course. Paul, thank you so much for everything that you and all the key workers across the UK have done. For the next Jaguars draft pick, it's all yours.
With the 106th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Jay Tufele, defensive tackle, USC. Let's go, Jays, let's go.
Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, of course, the extensive ties to London, the announcement coming there for Jay Tufele, who opted out of 2020.
He did. One of those opt-outs that had a really good 2019 campaign where look at this kid. He had 41 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss. 4 of those 6.5 tackles for loss were sacks. You watch him disruptive along the interior.
So we have Jay Tufele off the board, 65 career tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a second team All Pac-12 selection in 2018, made first team in 2019 before opting out for 2020. An excellent value pick. We had Jay as the 99th best player on the board. They get him here at pick 106. Can play on the interior, can play outside at times in run sets. Not the best pass rusher, but extremely stout against the run and has the ability to hold up against a double team to allow linebackers to roam freely. So very good pick. The Jaguars continue to look smart and understand what draft value is all about, as every player they've taken has either been above where we had them ranked as far as draft value at the position they're taking them, or right on the money as far as Trevor Lawrence being number 1. The only player we were a little bit lower on was Travis Etienne, simply because we do not believe in the running back going in the first round. But of course, there are always good cases and points, and with Etienne, who is an excellent, rounded all-purpose back with 48 catches just a year ago with Trevor Lawrence, this is going to be an excellent addition to the team. And as we're waiting on the Jets pick, do apologize here, a little bit of technical difficulties as we try to get our draft coverage back up and running, folks.
Jets Training Center. I'm Leon Washington, former Jets 4th round pick, current coach. And with the 107th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Michael Carter, running back, North Carolina.
This is an excellent pick. Michael Carter, the 32 overall player on our big board.
A really high character guy.
Yeah, he came from a military family, right? And everyone in that program swears by this guy, his work ethic and his toughness. What I love about him is his versatility as a football player. I mean, yeah, he averaged 7.9 yards per rush last year and had 9 touchdowns, but he also is very involved in the passing game. You can use him out wide, you can split him out in the slot, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And that's exactly what I think the Jets are looking at here. They're thinking, now we got Elijah Moore, we've got our offensive guard, we've got our quarterback. Let's bring in another weapon here in the 4th round.
Excellent pick, an outstanding running back. Size 5'8", 200. Hard to find him. He's compact, he's low base, he's strong, he's got 4.5 speed, 34 vertical. He led the nation with 18 rushes of 20-plus yards against Miami Hurricanes. He had 308 yards on 24 carries. He can stop, start, stop on a dime, or I'll tell you talk about changing direction. Watch it right there. He has that, and that explosiveness and that burst and that long speed to take it to the house. Like I said, when you talk about production and consistency, Javonte Williams was there as well. What a dynamic duo they were. This kid was valuable to Mac Brown's offense. It's just that any player he's coached on either side of the ball.
There's the thing you really like about this guy, despite the fact that he's a little bit undersized, is that he will stick his nose in there in pass protection, which is going to give him a lot of value on third down. And you know this about Mike LaFleur type offenses will come from the Kyle Shanahan tree. Better.
So we look at Michael Carter, averaged 8 yards per carry, which was 5th in the nation last year, had 1,245 rushing yards, which was 4th in the nation, consistently over 1,000 yards, consistently used in the passing game, over 20 catches in multiple seasons. Michael Carter, a steal here in the 4th round. I would have been happy taking Michael potentially late 1st round, preferably in the 2nd round, to get him here early on day 3 in the 4th round. A tremendous job by the Jets. They've now added a player at the quarterback position and Zach Wilson at the running back position with Michael Carter, and of course at wide receiver with Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. So the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock with pick 108, and let's send it to the podium.
Rise up, my Falcons Nation, first of all. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. With the 108th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Darren Hall, defensive back, San Diego State.
So the Falcons go to the secondary for this pick, Mel. Again, if you've been the State Aztec program guys have a pretty good history of producing some defensive backs that have moved on to the NFL. In 2020, as a 4th-year junior this past season, at Nevada, he had 11 tackles, 10 solos, he had interception. Athletic kid, long, 6 foot, 190 pounder, good feet, tough, physical player, locates the ball, like the fact he'll tackle, he hits, he's not a one-dimensional cover guy. In 2019, he also had 49 tackles that year, 16 pass breakups in 2019, and in 2018, he had against Boise State a heck of a football game with 9 tackles and interception, moves from safety to cornerback in the spring of 2018, so he's got that versatility in his background as well. Redshirt in 2017 as a safety with a hamstring injury, played a lot of good football time at San Diego State.
Yeah, Mel, that's those 16 pass breakups in 2019 tied for the FBS lead in that.
So you look at a player here, Darren Hall, off the board, San Diego State hybrid safety and corner. He did not make our big board top 250. We would have had him closer to the 310 range, more of an undrafted free agent type kid that you're going to bring in. The Atlanta Falcons go ahead and get him. Did not play a high level of competition, but of course against a lower level of competition, he did play extremely well. So we saw a lot of tape on him in 2018 and 2019 where he stood out. And we'll see how he fits in with the Atlanta Falcons, who had taken 1st-round pick A.J. Terrell just a year ago out of Clemson. They definitely addressed a need there. And the Titans trade up to pick 109. They're swapping with the Carolina Panthers. They added Monty Rice yesterday at linebacker, who's an excellent fit to go with Rashaan Evans in the middle of that defense. They could potentially be looking at somebody specifically here with Michael Carter coming off the board there. They could be looking at the running back position, but lots of talent still available, of course. They do have some needs on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line, and at the wide receiver position. So we'll see what route the Titans go here. Lots of good talent available. We now have our top 4 running backs off the board. Yesterday, we did see the Titans add Dylan Radins, Monty Rice, and Elijah Molden to go with Caleb Farley, so they have addressed that secondary. And now we'd be looking at a player such as Tylan Wallace at the wide receiver position to potentially replace Corey Davis, who signed with the New York Jets. So we'll send that pick right to you, pick 109 for the Tennessee Titans.
14, 15, that didn't happen. Some of those guys have been pushed into day 3.
Yeah, we have so much depth at the wide receiver position. I mean, there are big guys. There's a lot of slot corners we've talked about. There's slot receivers we've talked about as well. But you're right. I think wide receiver makes a lot of sense for this team. They need one more guy, a big physical guy, I think, to get down the field.
Louis, as you look at Tennessee right now, that's the way you would go?
Absolutely. Well, they need to have more firepower. They need to make sure, Reese, that they can continue to produce those big explosive plays. Corey Davis leaves. He goes to the New York Jets.
Yep.
Look, A.J. Brown is a stud. A.J. just had some trouble staying on the football field on a consistent basis, but when he's on there, look, he is a beast. They need another running mate with him. They need someone who can really take some of the pressure off of him and Derrick Henry in the running game. And I think that would be a smart way to do it.
And I had wide receiver and tight end as the top two needs coming into the draft, and they haven't drafted either position yet.
The Titans now are going to make that pick and perhaps get.
So as we're looking at players available, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tylan Wallace definitely stand out at wide receiver, and we'll go to the podium now for the pick of the Tennessee Titans here in round 4, pick 110.
With the 109th pick in the NFL 2021 draft, the Tennessee Titans select Dez Fitzpatrick, wide receiver, Louisville.
So we're a bit lower on Dez Fitzpatrick. He stood out at the Senior Bowl, had some drop issues, but this kid runs extremely fluid routes at 6'2". So the 205-pounder out of Louisville was second team All-ACC in 2020 and will be a new weapon. 43 catches, 833 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Ryan Tannehill has to be excited about this player.
And that game, he had a career high 182 receiving yards on 8 catches with the 1 touchdown. He has the size. He makes nice adjustments to throws that are off the mark. What he needs to work on is making and securing those routine catches. Becoming a little more consistent, had some drops, but overall, he's got some physicality to him, some good athletic ability. He's got some production. Just take care of making those routine grabs.
Yeah, the focus drops kind of drove the coaching staff crazy, but you see right there, he has the ability to make the tough catch. He's got the size, as you mentioned, almost 6'2", 208. He's got the speed, average 19.4 yards per catch on a season. He's not an elite player. He's got the chance to be a really good number 2 or number 3 starter in the league. His maturity was an issue early in his career. He started to become more mature, and I think that.
So we had Dez Fitzpatrick as the 238th best player on the board, more of a 7th round pick. To take him over a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown or Tylan Wallace just doesn't add up to us here at TD Sports Live. The Browns here pick 110. They had taken another wide receiver we were a bit lower on, who was going to be a special teams ace as well, Anthony Schwartz, the Olympic track star. So we'll see what route the Cleveland Browns go here. Of course, they've had an excellent draft thus far, had an incredible season this past year. With Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, really an excellent backfield, and they'll be getting a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. back this season. As far as the value players on the board, we continue to mention the same players as far as our best with Wallace available. But if you look at the linebacker position, we're extremely high on Errol Thompson and KJ Britt, 2 players that we thought would be off the board by now. At the safety position, of course, Sherwood, Hufanga, and Jamar Johnson, as well as Ardarius Washington, stand out as players that we value much higher than what the pick is right now. So other guys that could potentially go at this point would be on the defensive line. We haven't seen that run on defensive linemen as of yet, just a couple of players going thus far. Of course, we did see Jay Tuffley from USC going early today, but lots of talent still available on the board. And the Browns take James Hudson, the left tackle, with pick 110. 2020 first team All-AAC out of Cincinnati, a Michigan transfer to Cincinnati in 2019. We had James Hudson as the 98th best player on our board. Excellent value there. This is about where we thought James would go. So the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, but the Cleveland Browns continue to make excellent picks, adding a big-time tackle that we really like here at TD Sports Live. James Hudson, our best available tackle left on the board, goes to protect Baker Mayfield. And with Cincy on the clock, they went with Jamar Chase this draft, pick 5, to reunite with Joe Burrow. They had an excellent connection at LSU 2 years ago, where Chase had 20 touchdowns as a sophomore. But they did pass on a big-time left tackle in Penei Sewell. So they came back around to get Jackson Carman, a tackle out of Clemson yesterday in the second round, pick 46. And they added Texas outside linebacker / defensive end Joseph Osai in the third round with pick 69. So on top of that, in free agency, adding Trey Hendrickson, Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie, Riley Reef, and Larry Ungajubi. What they have to really focus on is their offensive line. They were tied for 29th in the league in pass block win rate. Of course, they took Billy Price a few years ago in the first round. They have Jonah Williams at the tackle position and added Jackson Carman. So they could be looking at an interior lineman here. Some of the players we really like came off the board, some a bit earlier than expected. Kendrick Green and Robert Hainsey went a bit earlier than where we had them ranked, but still lots of good talent on there on the board and available. So the Bengals pick is in. They'll be followed up by the Detroit Lions, and then once again, the Cleveland Browns come back with another pick at 113. So Cincinnati, let's see what you got. The pick is in, folks.
Hometown Browns just took James Hunt, an offensive lineman from Cincinnati. Started his career at Michigan, had a dispute over his release with Jim Harbaugh. He dealt with some depression issues. A talented big offensive line.
Yeah, he is 6'4.5", 313 pounds. He has shorter arms. I think that's one of the reasons why he's still available coming into day 3. I watched this guy live early this season, Mel, and he is big, he's physical, he's a nasty finisher, and I think he's really good with his hands and pass protection.
And he plays like a defensive lineman on the offensive line. You look at the way he just blows people off the ball, plays with a fiery attitude and approach. Think about it. Cincinnati averaged 5.6 yards a carry, led the conference a lot, had to do with James Hudson. He's as a pass blocker, but the potential is there, and you got to love the guy who can get after you. It really sets the tone for the type of attitude your offensive line's going to have.
Yeah, you just need some technique work. Rather when you're a former defensive lineman, you just got to learn how to remain patient, make sure you're firing your hands the right way, step back, not get up on your toes, because the aggression is there, that athletic ability is there. But sometimes when you're playing all...
And so what we see with the Browns is they took Greg Newsome in the first round, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a steal in the second, Anthony Schwartz in the third, and come back around with James Hudson with the 4th round selection here today. So picks 1 and 2 go to the defensive side of the ball, and picks 3 and 4 for the Cleveland Browns go to the offensive side of the ball. So we're going to send it back to the draft. We have Bengals head coach Zach Taylor making the pick, and they're going to go ahead and take defensive end Cameron Sample out of Tulane. The Sample is 6'2.5", 272 pounds. We did see him climbing draft boards lately. 52 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks at Tulane in 2020. Has the ability to stand up or get down in his set. 162 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 11.5 career sacks at Tulane. A bit rich to take this player here, but fits their scheme, what they're looking to do there in Cincinnati. Replace Carl Lawson, get an outside pass rusher who can try to get after the quarterback.
He can do this too. He's not just a power player, he's also got finesse rush ability, and he can win in a numerous different ways. You see it right there, the double hand swat, slap the offensive tackle's hands down, bend the corner, and he's putting your quarterback on the ground. You want him to put your hands up in the ground and rush the passer? I can do that too. Quarterback wants to step up in the pocket, I'll keep my eyes on you. I'm just going to chase you down all day long, because that's what I'm known for. I'm known for a high motor. I'm known to have physical versatility. That's exactly what the Bengals need.
First thing I wrote down in my notes, active hands. This guy is so quick and good with his hands. That's right, 22 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks now in his career.
Yes, I think that first season opener against South Alabama for Cam Sample, we had 7 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, put everybody on high alert. Patrick Johnson, another front 7 guy, linebacker for Tulane, is going to be a good pick in day 3 as well.
How great was that celebration with Sample? Lions about to make a pick.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC.
Phenomenal pick here. The Lions at pick 112 add Amon-Ra St. Brown. We had him on going much higher than this, a second round grade, pick 64, first team All Pac-12. His brother of course, Equanimous playing for the Packers. His father, John Brown, was a two-time Mr. Universe. He is fluent in German and French as well as English. So this kid is extremely talented, had 7 receiving touchdowns in 6 games this past year, the shortened schedule for the Pac-12. Sky's the limit, 5'11 and a half, 200 pounds, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Michael Pittman on the roster too, and Amon-Ra played in the slot primarily, and I'll tell you this, he is a magician inside there with his releases off the line of scrimmage, and his ability then, all you see is competitiveness here on the highlights. He will just take the defensive back, and he'll just hit you in the mouth. And he's a tough individual who, when he's running his routes down the field, is very good at being able to create separation and then make the contested catches, despite the fact that he's sub 6 foot and he's only 4.51 in the 40-yard dash. But his ability to adjust and track the football is as good as any wide receiver in this draft, and that's saying something. This kid is a player. Detroit got himself a great player.
You can see, even in these highlights, and I saw it on tape, he is a natural hands catcher. He will go up in contested situations and bring that ball down. He also had 13 touchdowns the last 2 years now. For a guy that doesn't have elite size, he's not like your typical.
So Amon-Ra was outstanding when we saw him play live here in San Antonio at the high school all-star game. As a high school all-star, he was an All-American, came out and was making big-time plays down the sideline, was riled up, celebrating everything he was doing, extremely passionate about the game of football. This is a fantastic pick. If you have not seen Amon-Ra St. Brown play, a player I'd compare him to that's actually in the same draft class was Jamar Chase, who went 5th overall. So guys that play like they're 6'2", 6'3", even though they're about 5'11", 6 feet. Amon-Ra St. Brown's ability to track the football, go up and make catches. You will see him on You Got Moss. Just an incredible player that can track the ball in the air like a Larry Fitzgerald. Makes sense for them to add that player as they lost a lot of talent at the wide receiver position with Kenny Golladay no longer there, Marvin Jones no longer there. They had a big-time elite prospect in Amon-Ra St. Brown, getting him in the 4th round. We had him, as I said, a 2nd-round value. Fantastic job. And the Lions pick is in. They're going back-to-back here at pick 113. With lots of talent still on the board, they could potentially address the wide receiver position again. So lots of talent available. Jabril Cox, somebody that stands out. Sage Surratt, somebody that Mel Kiper is much higher on than we are. Sean Wade, the corner out of Ohio State, who was a projected 1st-round pick prior to the season, but of course struggled quite a bit. And as we did see yesterday, a lot of quarterbacks came off the board. So Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance go in the top 15 picks. We saw Kyle Trask go in the 2nd round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kellen Mond goes to Minnesota, and Davis Mills gets added to Houston, where the Deshaun Watson drama and saga may linger, and Davis may get a shot earlier than expected. So the best quarterback we have available is Sam Ehlinger out of Texas, and followed that by Ian Book, the all-time winningest quarterback out of Notre Dame, Jamie Newman, the Georgia Wake Forest product, Shane Buechele out of SMU, Felipe Franks out of Arkansas by way of Florida. So lots of good players off the board at the quarterback position. We may not see another one for quite some time. 8 quarterbacks drafted through the first 3 rounds is the most in the modern draft era. So we are seeing a big emphasis and value on the quarterback position. As we look at the linemen still available, some of the players on the defensive line, you could start to see go in this range, as we have players such as Shaka Toney at 108. We're in the 113 pick range here. Jaquan Bailey from Iowa State was 1st team All Big 12 this past year. And then on the inside, we have lots of talent at that defensive tackle position that has been undervalued, in our opinion, to this point. So once 1 or 2 go at this position, you might see a steady run, but they're being patient as far as taking these players, such as Tadaro Slayton and Bobby Brown, players that we really like. Marvin Wilson as well. Kyler Shelvin has a little bit of a weight issue, so we can see why he's falling. And the pick is in, folks.
21 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Derek Barnes, linebacker from Purdue. Go Lions.
Well, it's another one of your still available guys off the board early today.
Well, I'll tell you this, head coach Dan Camp, we all saw what he was like in his opening press conference. He wants guys to play football and play football hard. Derek Barnes, you are going to love this guy from Detroit. Look, in 2019, he's got a full-time edge player. He moved to middle linebacker in 2020. I'm just telling you what, it is an absolute hit show watching this guy run to the football. He will light you up all over the field, and he will not stop chasing you down over and over and over again. He can play middle linebacker on first and second down. On third down, at 238 pounds, he will put his hand down and rush the passer and take your 300-pound offensive tackle and deposit him into the lap of the quarterback. There's nothing he can't do from a physical perspective. In the passing game on first and second down, despite being short, stocky, rocked up, he's a guy who has tremendous zone drop quickness, very good pattern match ability, and he's just a tackling machine. You will love everything about him. He will fit into the culture up there. This is a great, great pick in the fourth round.
A boiler up, Derek Brown.
So we're not quite as high on Derek Barnes as the breakdown there went for him. We had him as a 7th round grade. Doesn't have the explosiveness or the prototypical size that you're looking for from a linebacker in the 4th round. So a bit of a reach in our opinion by the Detroit Lions. They've made a couple of good picks and a couple of rough picks. So taking Levi Abuzarike, Ifeatu Melifonwu, a bit too early in our opinion, and Derek Barnes can be added to that group. So Penei Sewell at 7 was a steal, and we're moving rapidly, folks. We're going to go to Arthur Blank for pick 114 to the Atlanta Falcons.
Hence, we want to acknowledge and recognize the great work that our personnel department and coaching staff has done. And with another pick, number 114, in the 2021 draft, we select Drew Dahlman, the offensive center from Stanford University. Thank you.
Good bloodlines there for Drew Dahlman. His father, Chris, long-time NFL offensive lineman.
Yeah, 49ers, a lot of his father's son paintings this year. So you look at Drew Dahlman, you look at that kid trying at the Pac-12. You think about Stanford with the improvement of Davis Mills. Drew Dahlman was a key to what Davis Mills was able to do with Simi Fehoko, wide receiver, will be a day 3 pick. Pass protection, did a good job. Now, he can get knocked back a little, but again, that's against power rushers. But overall, good technique, good alertness, run blocking, and the rest of his ability to seal, got to the 2nd level. This Stanford offense averaged 420 points per game. Davis Mills, as I said, had a heck of a year.
It's what we like out of Drew Dahlman, our 169th best player on the board. This is a bit rich as far as taking him this early. We have seen a lot of centers going, but Dahlman comes from an NFL pedigree. His father, Chris, of course, a former player who's now an offensive line coach with the Rams. Dahlman, the reason he's a little bit lower on our board is his size. So he's 6'3", 300 pounds, a little small at that center position. Reminds me a bit, though, of a very successful player for the New England Patriots by the name of Dan Koppen. So Dahlman has all the smarts, the intelligence, the understanding of what they're trying to do offensively, and extremely instinctive, technically and fundamentally sound. Just does not have the physical prototype that you're looking for out of that position. Can be bullied a little bit by bigger interior linemen, and that's something he's going to have to work on. So if he improves his base and gets a little bit stronger at the NFL level, the sky's the limit. So not a bad pick there by the Atlanta Falcons, and Arthur Blank was extremely excited about that. So we'll have to see how Drew Dahlman does in Atlanta. And we have the Cowboys up next, followed by the New York Giants and then the LA Rams. And the Cowboys pick is in. So Dak Prescott coming back healthy this year, has his fresh new deal, $126 million guaranteed, $40 million average per year. And they have some needs at center, safety, and the tight end position. So the Cowboys have been relatively rich taking players such as CeeDee Lamb a year ago to go with Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper at that wide receiver position. And all the pieces are in place as far as the skill positions, but if they can address that offensive line and get some more defensive help, that's what they should be looking to do here. So they added Micah Parsons in the first round, moving down from pick 10 to pick 12, collecting an additional third-round pick, and we'll see which route they go here.
So what are you waiting for? World's Strongest Man Martins Litzis to help you break down boxes?
What am I gonna do to you, box? Let me break it down for you. Oh, you're going down. Down to the recycling center.
Hey, thanks, Martins.
You're welcome.
Geico. Switch today and see all the ways you could save.
Why should your business go hybrid? As a coach, my office is nowhere without a solid line and agile, skilled players. I need the speed of a running back and the security of a lineman. A hybrid cloud approach with IBM gets your business both, so you can manage data and apps, whatever plays come your way.
Here, coach.
When security
And as we look at the pulse around the NFL today, we see that Kyle Trask has stated it's truly remarkable to be in the same quarterback room and to be able to learn from Tom Brady. The odds makers in Vegas see a bigger year from Trevor Lawrence than from Zach Wilson. So if you're looking at odds on the Rookie of the Year, that's a good predictor of how they think each player is going to do next season. And Najee Harris in the early Rookie of the Year odds definitely stands out, folks. So in your fantasy league, Najee Harris, the 24th overall pick, the running back to the Steelers out of Alabama, is going to be a horse. And the Packers continue to come out, Mark Murphy, their CEO, stating that they are committed to Aaron Rodgers. They would love to extend him, so we'll see what happens with that. And the pick is in, folks.
Boys about to make a selection, and thus far the Cowboys have picked 5 defensive players because their defense was not good last year, to put it mildly. Worse in franchise history. Jerry Jones, grandchild with him to make the pick.
Live from the Ford Center, home of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm here with my grandson, James Jones.
With the 115th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Dallas Cowboys select Jabril Cox, linebacker. LSU.
Very good pick. Jabril Cox, the 40th player on our board, comes off the board to the Cowboys now. He's going to be an excellent fit with that linebacking core. Had 58 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions this year at LSU. The transfer from North Dakota State, where he won 3 FCS national championships. He transferred, was third on the team in tackles this year, and had an incredible Senior Bowl. Really showed excellent versatility. The former first-team FCS All-American in 2018 and 2019 played just as well when he stepped up in competition. So 6'3", 230, excellent length, size, speed combination. Very good in coverage. Can line him up in the slot. Can line him up against tight ends, running backs, and he is a hammer in the run game. So we'll kick it back to the boys at ESPN. But very good pick here by the Dallas Cowboys.
Option, which I heard is plural and not plural, right?
Yeah,
and also
singular and
plural, right? Thank you, Reese. And then in 2020 at LSU, he had 3 interceptions. He was just great in coverage, and you can see his instincts in zone and in man. And if you can protect him and get him out of kind of the box where he has to take on blocks, he can be very effective.
In 2018 at North Dakota State, he returned 2 of those interceptions for touchdowns. His coverage skills, I watch him against tight ends, wide receivers. He can run with anybody.
He might be the best cover linebacker in this draft.
And if you start thinking about what we've been talking about, the direction that the NFL is going, guys in space, you're going to want linebackers that can cover, and Jabril Cox can certainly do that.
What they've done now in Dallas. I mean,
and the Giants pick is in here at pick 116. And they take Ellerson Smith, the linebacker out of Northern Iowa. So the Cowboys, just to get back to them quickly, took Micah Parsons, Kelvin Joseph, Osa Digizua, Chauncey Golston, Nashawn Wright, and now Jabril Cox. Ellerson Smith, the linebacker to the Giants, did not play this past year, but in 2019 he was an FCS second-team AP All-American. So 2 players going back-to-back from the FCS ranks. He's 6'6.5", 252 pounds. And in his career had 106 tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. So very productive player. Has excellent ability to rush the passer. Once again, we didn't see him against a high level of competition. So we'll see how that translates to the next level. Didn't see him on tape in 2020. Most of the tape that you do see of him at the FCS level is him simply bull rushing players or using a spin move. Not very adept tackle play that he's going up against here. So the Rams are on the clock here at pick 117. And one thing that Ellerson Smith did do well, we did see him play well against Iowa State, roughed up Brock Purdy pretty well a couple years ago. So the Giants have added Kadarius Toney, Azeez Ojulari, Aaron Robinson, and Ellerson Smith. So a big focus on that defensive side of the ball. Of course, they had a first-round pick by moving down from pick 11 to pick 20 and taking Kadarius Toney.
Ellerson Smith, they've kind of nailed it. You know, Lewis referenced that Iowa State game. He said, wow, who is this guy? Yeah. It's in Ames. He's got 5-6 tackles. He's got the forced fumble. He's got a couple sacks, 3 tackles for loss. That, I think, got Scout's attention. No question. And I think here's a kid, a developmental pass rusher. Not a bad thing here. Yeah.
And, you know, in practice at Northern Iowa, he went against Spencer Brown, who was a pick of the Buffalo Bills last night. And by the way, just as an aside, before we continue with the Giants, if you don't think that Spencer Brown is serious about endearing himself to the Bills fans, just have a look at your social media.
And the Rams take Bobby Brown out of Texas A&M. We had Bobby as the 93rd best player available, so they get him at pick 117. That's a great pick. 2020 first team All SEC, big defensive tackle, tough to move. He's a big boy. Had 22 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks. Texas A&M had one of their best seasons in history under their head coach, Jimbo Fisher, who has made a big difference. Of course, Kellen Mond, the quarterback there, going earlier in the draft yesterday to the Minnesota Vikings. So in his career, 57 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss. And Big Bobby Brown could be an immediate contributor. Is going to help out next to Aaron Donald. Can help to replace Michael Brockers, who is now with the Detroit Lions. Really like this pick by Bobby Brown. He was our 8th best defensive tackle and 93rd best player on the board. So great job. Brown is a moose. 6'4", 330 pounds. The tape doesn't lie. He's going to be stout at the next level.
This season, there was a stretch during the year where he posted a sack in 5 of 6 games. Right now, he's a flash player. What he has to do is work to get on proper leverage on a consistent enough basis. Lacks a little polish as a pass rusher, but he's flashed that kind of potential. As I said, with those 5 sacks in 6 games, actually his 5.5 sacks led the Aggies. 7.5 tackles for loss, was second on that team. So there's some things to work with. He's going to get you initially right away that ability to be able to run and clog up that interior. He can be disruptive against the pass, which he's shown on occasion, Todd, can do, then they may have something.
He flashes athleticism for that big frame, the 6'4", 321, as you said, and he's got those long arms, Mel. And when he knows what he's doing with his hands, and he can actually extend and get guys off his body with the.
And we see the Rams have gone with Tutu Atwell, Ernest Jones, and now Bobby Brown. And the Chargers pick is in at 118. They take Chris Rump II out of Duke. Very talented pass rusher, 3rd team All-ACC in 2019, 17.5 career sacks, which was 4th in Duke's history. The one thing that we did want to see out of Chris, we thought he'd come back for his senior season. Of course, he left early here after his junior year, was we'd like to see Chris put on a little more bulk. So he's a little bit thin, about 220 pounds as a pass rusher off the edge. Does not have the coverage skills you'd be looking for a player his size, so he is a rush guy that really needs to pack on some weight. So we have the Minnesota Vikings on the clock here with pick 119, followed by the New England Patriots with pick 120, and then seemingly they're picking every handful of picks, but Jacksonville Jaguars will be back on the clock with pick 121, so we'll see what Trent Baalke and Urban Meyer do with that pick. Once again, they'll be on the clock about 10 spots after that, 9 to be precise, at pick 130. So lots of opportunities here for the Jacksonville Jaguars to improve their football team. And a big surprise, the Vikings at pick 119 take Iowa State running back Kenny Ngwangu. So this was the not even the full-time running back one at Iowa State. Very interesting pick. We did not have him ranked in our top 300, so a lot of players that we were not quite as high on going in this 4th round. And the Patriots have the pick in, and we'll be right back with you as soon as that pick comes trickling down the pipeline.
Send off everything and find hundreds of meaningful gifts at prices you'll love. Only at K.
We come for the stadium and the backyard. We come for the receptions and the repetitions.
Only the song survive. That's why we here.
We come for the celebration and the preparation. We come for it all.
Lose something? Where's your face mask?
Probably in my car. He has no idea.
You need your mask? You want it right where you can find it. Introducing Copperhead Never Lost Face Mask. Designed with a built-in lanyard that lets you lower your mask.
And the pick is in for the New England Patriots here at 120. They take the big running back, Ramondre Stevenson. We really like Ramondre Stevenson. We had him as the 97th best player on the board. Reminds us of LeGarrette Blount a bit. So 2020 honorable mention, all Big 12, had a positive marijuana test that kept him out of his bowl game his senior season. The former JUCO transfer cut in to Trey Sermon's carries there. Trey Sermon eventually going to Ohio State. Ramondre, 110.8 rush yards per game this past year, which was second in the Big 12. 8.1 yards per carry in 2019, led all of college football. So he was part of a triumvirate of backs there. They had Kennedy Brooks, Trey Sermon, and Ramondre Stevenson, a big power back. Ramondre Stevenson, an excellent fit for New England. They've been playing downhill football with players such as Antoine Smith, LeGarrette Blount, Corey Dillon for years. Now they have Damian Harris, and this player, Stevenson, is very similar in that mold that fits their scheme as far as getting downhill rather quickly. So one of the things that we had as a negative on Stevenson, something we want to see better from him is his pass protection. So he needs to improve as a blocker, and we haven't seen a ton out of the receiving game. Does not have a collegiate touchdown receiving at Oklahoma. So we'll see how that translates, but a very, very good and strong runner. And the pick is in for the Jaguars at 121. They take defensive end Jordan Smith out of UAB. Jordan was a 2020 first-team All-CUSA selection. And as you can tell, of course, the picks are going rapidly. 43 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks this past season. Was second-team All-CUSA in 2019. Getting back to Chris Rumph, the player out of Duke, he did bulk up to 245 this year, put on about 25 extra pounds. So we'll see if he can continue to keep his quickness off the edge with that additional weight. And the Bengals pick is in, folks. Tyler Shelvin, the big defensive tackle out of LSU. He sat out this past year, 350 pounds. Needs to get his weight under control. Needs to control that weight. So 48 career tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Of course, anchored the national title-winning LSU Tigers, led by Joe Burrow just 2 years ago, 2019. So we had Chris Rumph as the 145th best player, going a bit before where we had liked him, but he does go to the Chargers, who have added Rashawn Slater, Asante Samuel Jr., Josh Palmer, Trey McKitty, and the aforementioned Chris Rumph. So the Chargers looking to add a lot of versatility, touching each side of the ball at each level. And the Eagles pick is in, pick 123. And with Chris Rumph, his father is a coach there for the Chicago Bears, former coach at Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas. So we've seen Rumph for quite some time, always getting very good coaching and experience due to his father. We saw the Eagles address the center position there in the second round with Landon Dickerson, who could also play guard or tackle. We have him best slated as a center, but their offensive line was a major weakness last year, so they could potentially continue to address that position. They went 4-11-1 last year, of course, moved on from former second overall pick Carson Wentz, sending him to the Indianapolis Colts. The Eagles took Devontae Smith in the first round, Heisman Trophy candidate and former teammate of Jalen Hurts. Now let's listen to what the guys have to say about Ramondre Stevenson, running back selected here in the fourth round to the New England Patriots.
Stevenson out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, what great story here, Reese. A guy who, when he came out of high school, was a zero-star recruit, played at JUCO for 2 years, then was considered a four-star recruit before he went to Oklahoma. He had a four-star type of year. Let's tell you, a 6 foot, 230 pounds. Don't let the 4.63 speed fool you. When this guy gets to the second level, it's over. He's a home run type hitter. Very patient, almost Le'Veon Bell-esque as far as being patient, trying to find his hole. And then when he hits it on the second level, he is gone. Gap scheme, zone scheme, it doesn't matter. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, he'll absolutely stone you in pass protection. And he's a guy who's got tremendous durability. He'll break off a 70, 80-yard run in that Oklahoma State game. They come back, throw the ball to him on a halfback wide, come back to him, run him up the middle, over and over and over. He's a battering ram. Think about what New England wants to do up there as far as running the football. He fits perfect. Now he can join his buddy Ronnie Perkins up there. They've got it going on up there in New England as far as their draft.
So New England has taken Mac Jones, Christian Barmore, Ronnie Perkins, and Ramondre Stevenson. So 2 players from Alabama, 2 players from Oklahoma, taking very good players from winning programs. The Patriots have gotten good value on all 4 of their picks, in our opinion. Barmore was our 10th best player. They got Perkins at 96, who was in our 60 range, and Stevenson, our 97th best player, goes 4th round, pick 120. And we'll kick it back to ESPN for Jordan Smith, the defensive end out of UAB, 6'7", 255 pounds. The Eagles at pick 123 just took Zach McPherson out of Texas Tech, 4 interceptions, first team All Big 12 corner in 2020. And I'm going to bring up the player profile here of Ramondre Stevenson and take a look at the running back that the Patriots just added.
Like Chris Ruff II, get in that weight room, get stronger, and then determine whether you're going to be on your feet or as a down defensive end. That will be determined by if you can put on weight, and as I say, get stronger in that upper body.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. And obviously, when Trevor Lawrence won, Travis Etienne, the running back, with their second pick, Walker Little with their 4th pick, the offensive tackle, but the other 3 picks have been on the defensive side. So they're really trying to balance out what they're doing. And with the last couple of picks, defensive linemen, they need to get better up front. They need, they brought in Tufele, who's going to be really a run stopper, and now you get a guy who can rush the passer better.
I really don't think Jacksonville on the offensive side of the ball was ever really that far away. They were obviously a signal caller away from doing big things, but they had a lot of the foundational pieces in place, especially on the offensive line. Defense is where they needed to put their attention. If they hit on these guys, this team can make some headway in the South very quickly.
And by adding Jordan Smith, who to his credit has turned his life around, was involved in an off-field incident in Florida involving a credit card scam, went to June College, fixed his game, fixed his life, excelled at UAB, and now gets a chance to go to the rebuilding Jaguars and perhaps give Urban Meyer an elite pass rush.
So as we look at Ramondre Stevenson, originally out of JUCO, he was listed at 246 pounds, took some weight off of his frame, weighed in at 235 at the Senior Bowl. So we see his numbers in 2019, 8.0 a carry, 6 touchdowns, and then in 6 games, his final year there, his senior year without Trey Sermon or Kennedy Brooks, who was an opt-out due to coronavirus, he averaged over 110 yards per game. So once he took on a bigger role in the offense, we saw that excellent productivity. We compare him to a LeGarrette Blount or an Antoine Smith type player. So his ceiling should be a starter in a shared backfield, perfect fit with a guy like Damian Harris and Sony Michel. Of course, they have J.J. Taylor in that backfield as well. And his floor, if things don't pan out for him, similar to a John Clay type player coming out of Wisconsin who ended up with the Steelers. We had originally Ramondre Stevenson going to the Tennessee Titans. Of course, he goes to the New England Patriots. So very, very good pick by the New England Patriots adding Ramondre Stevenson. And with the 124th pick, Washington has the pick in, folks. They do have a need for quarterback, so we'll see if they address that here. And they're going to take the big tight end, John Bates, out of Boise State. So Ron Rivera gets the 2019 and 2020 Honorable Mention All-Mountain West Conference tight end. And as I scroll over to show you our rank on John Bates, he had a limited season this past year due to the virus, 12 catches, 117 yards. In his career, 47 catches, 579 yards, only 2 touchdowns. But John Bates, not a player we'd be looking at in the 4th round. He would be more of an undrafted free agent type. But they go ahead. Washington adds John Bates, tight end out of Boise State. And the Vikings are on the clock here at pick 125. I'm still shocked that Tylan Wallace has not been selected. Now, his brother had to retire from football due to multiple ACL injuries. Tylan, of course, in 2019 had torn his ACL, so perhaps a medical concern and red flag for a lot of organizations. Wallace always seemed like a Patriots-type player to me. Can play at all 3 levels. Reminds me of Terry Glenn. So very surprised that he's still available, folks. And I'm also surprised that Chuba Hubbard and Jarrett Patterson at running back have not been taken. As we go across our board, some of the other guys that stand out as far as being available, definitely be Marvin Wilson. So we saw Tyler Shelvin go. Still lots of good talent. We like Errol Thompson, KJ Britt at the linebacker position. Good talent available. Mel Kiper has his top 5 as Tylan Wallace, DeMar Hamlin, Patrick Johnson, Sage Surratt, and Sean Wade. We really like Trill Williams out of Syracuse and Trey Brown out of Oklahoma. And quarterback Cameron Bynum, first team All Pac-12 out of California, goes to the Minnesota Vikings with pick 125. He was second team All Pac-12 in 2019. And the Minnesota Vikings continue to try to build up the secondary, 188 career tackles, 6 interceptions, and 35 passes defended in his career. So not a guy that we had ranked quite as high, but the Minnesota Vikings do address a need there. And the Panthers pick is in at pick 126, but we're going to hear a breakdown on Tyler Shelvin, the big nose tackle, 350 pounds out of LSU.
There's a reason why he goes in the 4th round, because he's not a great pass rusher, but he brings some power as a pass rusher, can collapse the pocket a little bit. And I really think when he's going, he can be that guy in 1st and 2nd down, can really just disrupt everything in the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah, going into the year, had he played, you'd have thought he would have been an earlier pick. And again, these opt-outs, if they played well in 2019 and 2018.
Look at that quickness in the short area. He's not a speedster, but that short area quickness.
Yeah, more suited for the old style of the NFL than what we're seeing now.
And the player we just mentioned, Chuba Hubbard, off the board to the Panthers with pick 126, second team All Big 12 running back this past season, first team in 2019, rushed for over 2,000 yards in 2019, was a Doak Walker Award finalist. So did not replicate the production as a senior, but was a unanimous first team All-American as a junior. The Canadian product is a very good speedster, was the offensive player of the year in the Big 12 conference, relied heavily upon in that rush game. Not the biggest back, but you could give him 30 plus carries, at least at the collegiate level, and he never slowed down. He actually got stronger as the games went on. So has run mainly out of shotgun sets and open sets, Haven't seen him as much in the single back type formations, so that will have to be something that we see at the next level. But as a fill-in or somebody that can go in there and play with Christian McCaffrey, an excellent pick by Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers.
And I think that's where you saw a little inconsistency.
And we're going to kick it over and listen to the breakdown on Zach McPherson, the Texas Tech defensive back. 4 interceptions this past year, former transfer out of Penn State. Zach really showed out this past year, first team All Big 12.
Those roll the dice guys, you take him, hope for the best. This is about the spot you bring a guy like that in to the fold in the 4th, 5th round there. You actually gave him a 6th round good, so a little higher than where I would have probably taken him. But I think if you saw him in the right game, you like the cover skills, you like the fact he anticipated well. I think he showed some big play potential in terms of getting some turnovers in that Red Raider defense.
Zach McPherson. See him work a little special teams right here. Oh, yeah. Just weight on it and the top right in his hand. There you get to show off the speed. So he's going to the Eagles. Zach McPherson joining Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech. Defensive linemen wait for Skip Holtz there. And now Zach McPherson going the 123rd pick. Washington football team has taken John Bates out of Boise State.
Guy Kuiper, Jim Nagy does a great job at Senior Bowl, and John Bates came in. You're down there, Todd, and watch John Bates at that mobile.
One year I'm going to get you down there.
At 6'6", 260. I'm watching that. I'm studying all those practice tapes. Look at this kid, super athletic. Yeah, in high school, he was a 3-star recruit, was a wide receiver, defensive back punter, basketball track, a hurdler as well. Javelin and the title in 2015, triple jump, long jump. He came on as a receiver, never had a ton of catches, 47 in his career. Utah State game and the Air Force game this year. He was impressive, but he's tough. He's a hard worker, high character kid, and he showed during those Senior Bowl practices what he's capable of with that kind of size. I thought he caught the ball well during his career. I think the best is yet to come with John Bates. We talked about him. I brought him up as an after the Senior Bowl practice, went back and studied him a little more. I think that's when his grades started to rise.
The thing that really jumped out to me is his ball skills. I think he catches the ball as well as any tight end in this class, not named Pitts.
You know, the odd thing about him, our extent.
So they're a bit higher on John Bates than we are. He did look very good in practices at the Senior Bowl. If you get a chance to watch the All-22 tape of the Senior Bowl, something you should do each year prior to the draft to see these prospects play against other prospects. You don't always see at the collegiate level guys getting those one-on-one reps. It's very valuable for the receivers versus defensive backs to see how the quarterbacks mix in with these players. And my favorite is personally the offensive and defensive linemen going head-to-head. So watching a guy like Quinn Miners, who really stood out at the Senior Bowl, was a lot of fun this past year. So with John Bates, they do like his upside as far as the receiving threat. We did too. He's not a very physical tight end at 6'6", 250, former receiver, not very adept in the blocking game. So the lack of production at tight end as far as a receiver was something that we weren't the happiest with. So that's why we had a later grade on him, a 6th round pick, and he goes here in the 4th round. So the Indianapolis Colts take Kylan Granson, the first team All-ACC AAC selection out of SMU, 6'1", 245, 35 catches, 536 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Granson is a tight end that can be used in the slot as well as outside or, of course, on the line.
You go back to the Cincinnati game, no problem there. Began his career at Rice, had 51 receptions over 2 seasons with the Owls. Comes to SMU this past year, 35 catches, team with 5 touchdowns. Against Temple, he had 149 receiving yards on 6 catches, but it's the inconsistency catching the football. The Cincinnati game came to mind right away. The block is never going to be a strength. He's got to get after a little bit more there. You can move him around a little bit.
I like it after the catch.
Yeah, but I just want to see more consistency.
No question. But with the ball in his hands, he's one of the better tight ends in this class. Because tight ends typically catch the ball in traffic, go down, get a yard or 2 after. He's actually capable of picking up yards after the catch. That's why I think in the 4th round, he brings some value and he's worth a shot. And to go back to what Reese was saying, I'm going to go with 15, Rock Your World today in the Derby. That's my pick.
Well, she was wearing a Derby hat.
Yeah,
I know. Prepared for it.
It made me.
So we love the Colts' 1st round pick. Woody Pay, pick 21 overall. We thought they reached a little bit on the defensive end out of Vanderbilt. Deo Odeyingbo had an Achilles tear this past year, so we'll see how he recovers from that. And a bit of a reach here, in our opinion, on Kylan Granson, the tight end out of SMU. So the Steelers are on the clock, pick 128, and the pick is in, folks.
There's some stuff. Shake off the rust. We talked about that. How many we had come off the...
And they take the offensive tackle out of Texas A&M, Dan Moore Jr. Had Moore as our 200th best player. Comes off the board here at 128. 2020 second team all SEC blocking for Kellen Mond and Isaiah Spiller, the spectacular running back who could potentially be a top 50 pick in next year's draft.
So a couple weeks before the draft. And so they're sorting through all this information that they usually have a month or so before the draft.
And we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock here at pick 129. Of course, the Super Bowl champions added a quarterback in Kyle Trask, potentially the quarterback of the future, depending on how long Tom Brady decides to play. The 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady continues to look spectacular. So the Tampa Bay Bucs pick is in, and they're going to go ahead and make let's see who it is, folks. Jalen Darden out of North Texas, a very, very, very exciting wide receiver. We had Jalen at 155, second team AP All-American out of North Texas. Very exciting player. 4-year contributor, very explosive, can play on the inside, on the outside, was a 2020 CUSA Most Valuable Player. So had 19 touchdown catches this past year, a nice weapon for Tom Brady. They had Jalen Darden out of North Texas. They added Tyler Johnson just a year ago, so out of Minnesota. So they have 2 young receivers now as fresh toys for Tom Brady. I would have taken Tylan Wallace, but Jalen Darden, his ability to run after the catch is truly spectacular. A very good pick. And we have the Rams back on the board here at 130. Looks like we had a trade there with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll get you the details as soon as we can on that. We're going to take a look at Cameron Bynum, the defensive back out of Cal, and the pick is in for the Rams, so we'll let you know as soon as we hear who they select here with pick 130.
And run with you off the line of scrimmage. He can't do that. If you saw at Cal, they do a lot of, they played a lot of cover 2, what you call 2 trap, cover 4, where he has protection and where he can take some chances. In the NFL on third down, you can't take any chances. You'll be covering Tyreek Hill. You'll be covering guys like A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins, and you're going to have to make sure you get your work done at the line, which is a teachable skill. So that's the thing where you sit there and go, okay, this makes sense.
And you look at what the Vikings have done: Christian Darrisaw, Kellen Mond, Chaz Surratt, Wyatt Davis, Patrick Jones, having 4 third-round picks. They really addressed a lot of needs on that team, getting Kenny Ngwagwu, the running back out of Iowa State, and Cameron Bynum here in the 4th round. So a bevy of picks for head coach Mike Zimmer. The Rams take Robert Rochelle out of Central Arkansas. That's a good pick for the Rams. They need a lot of help, losing a lot of good talented players on that defense. Did not play in 2020. The season was canceled for Robert Rochelle. We had him as the 187th best player on the board. Was a 2019 first team All-Southland, had 77 career tackles, 10 interceptions with 35 passes defense. So the Rams come up, get a talented corner. They've had great success identifying corners that fit well into their system, and it looks like Robert Rochelle will be another good fit for that team. We have the Baltimore Ravens on the clock here, pick 131. The pick is in, folks. Cleveland's going to be picking at 132, and the Saints at 133. And this could start to look like quarterback territory. So a player like Sam Ehlinger could be coming off the board relatively soon. Still shocked Errol Thompson's available at the linebacker position, as well as KJ Britt. Another player we're high on, Quincy Roche, at the 129th best overall player. He should be looked at around a pick like this. Lots of good defensive linemen still available, folks. The Ravens added Sammy Watkins, Kevin Zeitler, of course, drafted Rashad Bateman and Jason Owe with their 2 first-round picks, one which they acquired by trading Orlando Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs get Orlando Brown and Joe Tunney this offseason. Lots of money invested into that offensive front after they really struggled to protect Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Ravens went 11-5 last year, have extended the 5th-year option of Lamar Jackson, and may begin talking extension with him relatively soon. The former MVP has definitely been a fantastic pick for them, an excellent fit, and they took Devin Duvernay last year, so they've been working on getting a lot of good wide receivers in that mix, hoping to potentially open up that offense a bit for Lamar Jackson. Of course, they took running back J.K. Dobbins just a year ago, and Mark Ingram has moved on to the Houston Texans. So we'll see how everything goes in that backfield with Lamar Jackson. They also have Justice Hill, former running back out of Oklahoma State. Justice was a 3rd-round pick a couple years back and can be utilized on special teams as well as on 3rd down. So they have a nice little rotation down there. And, of course, who can forget Gus the Bus, Big Gus Edwards. So the Ravens have lost Matt Judon, Yannick Ngakoue, Ingram, and Matt Skura. A lot of good starters there, some that have aged, and utilizing these picks in the draft, they've done an excellent job at replacing those players.
Here in Cleveland, day 3 of the 2021 NFL Draft, 4th round underway. The Baltimore Ravens trying to find those final pieces, give them some more playoff success, lift them into the Super Bowl. About to make a pick here in the 4th round, and to do so is the head coach, John Harbaugh.
Hey, Ravens block, Bo Strong. The 131st pick, the Baltimore Ravens take Tylan Wallace, wide receiver, Oklahoma State.
And they add another excellent wide receiver for Lamar Jackson with Tylan Wallace here in the 4th round.
Really productive wide receiver in Mike Gundy's offense at 922 receiving yards in 2020.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Tylan Wallace, Reach. Think about the attitude, the approach to this kid. He tore his ACL in practice late October 2019 after having a great season. Comes back this year. Go back to the Texas game October 31st. He was uncoverable in that game. 11 catches for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. Plucks the ball out of the air with his hands. Really good route runner. He wins in contested situations. Good body control. Catches the balls that are off the mark. Tracks the deep ball well. This is a good pick for Eric DaCosta, a great GM for the Baltimore Ravens. Lining it up properly, Todd. Gets a steal on Tylan Wallace.
He's only 5'11", but he plays like he's 6'3". I mean, he plays physical, whether it's as a route runner, contested catches, or after the catch. He just uses his body and is strong. I love that about him.
Remember the bowl game? He played in the first half of that game. And then Mike Gundy said, no, you're not going out in the second half because of injury concern. You know, he already had the ACL late in 2019. So Tylan Wallace is he's a gamer, he's a baller, and he'll play like a Raven.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you know what they need him to play like? They need him to play like a number 1 wideout. That's what they need him to play like. Somebody who gives Lamar Jackson a dependable outside lane.
Now you have Rashad Bateman.
Dependable. That's true. He needs to play like a number 1 along with Bateman and get those guys to be on the outside to win down the field where Lamar then can take his game to the next level. Because if he can start getting you on the outside, now all of a sudden it's totally different.
So we compare Tylan Wallace to Terry Glenn. Can play in the slot on the outside. As they said, plays much bigger than he is. His ability to track the ball, his smooth route running, and his ability to go up and make the grab are fantastic. Andrew Berry, general manager of the Cleveland Browns, here with pick 132.
The Ohio State University.
Very popular pick. I'm sure that Andrew Berry Barry's excited about Tommy Togi. I'm probably more excited about his real first-round pick, young Eden Ruthberry, who was born just before the draft here. But Tommy Togi is going to be able to contribute here.
Yeah, he's got some free technique to him in terms of getting up the field and being disruptive. He's got a quick first step.
49 career tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for Tommy Togiai, who goes to the Cleveland Browns here at pick 132. Lots of players from Ohio State getting drafted here. Tommy we had ranked as 199th best player on the board, and he goes here at 132. So a little bit higher than we expected Tommy to go, but he goes to the Cleveland Browns, where he'll be paired up with guys like Myles Garrett on the outside, and they could wreak havoc. So he's a big boy, and he's going to help get after the passer to push the pocket and to take on double teams to help free up Myles Garrett, as well as the linebacker Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa that they drafted here in the second round today.
Utah, he went to the same high school that Taysom Hill went to. Put up 40 reps on the bench to show that strength. Now, I know that the history of guys who put up that number of repetitions on the bench press in the NFL hasn't always been great. But the difference with Toki is he did other athletic things well, too. I think he's got a really good chance to be a productive player for Cleveland here. See what the Browns have done so far, taking a couple of guys on the line, James Winston on the offensive line in the 4th round, and also Togi on the defensive line here in the 4th round as well. Pretty heavy on defense. Only Anthony Schwartz, the speedster, going on offense for the Cleveland Browns. 126 pick in this draft, 4th round. Chuba Hubbard went to the Carolina Panthers.
But they've got some speed here now with Chuba Hubbard. He's a Canadian national champion in his 8th year. He was in high school in the 100 meters. Ran 4.48 at 6 foot, 210 pounds. This guy is your quintessential zone scheme runner. He's the guy who's the one-cut north and south runner. Doesn't have a whole lot of open field elusiveness. I mean, it's adequate, but he wants to hit it quick, and he wants to get going in a hurry where he can then just turn on the jets and outrun anyone. He has good hands out of the backfield, can adjust the badly thrown balls. You'll see him here on a little halfback slow screen out here to your left. And now what he wants to do is just get the ball north and south. When he lowers his pads and runs with power, he can break tackles, has a tendency to get a little bit high, and therefore go down easier than you would expect a 210-pound back to go down. But this guy who has good lower body power, and again, the blazing speed, you can always use these type of guys. What a great pickup in the 4th round.
Justice Hill was hurt in 2018. He filled in, and against Oklahoma, he ran wild. That showed what he could do. He was a tremendous running back at Oklahoma State in 2019.
You get short area quicks and short area power. You don't find a lot of backs like that. So it's a really good value in the 4th round. He dropped off in terms of production in 2020, but look at his numbers in 2019. I mean,
yeah, this year he just didn't look as powerful.
There's a lot going on.
True. And I'm not knocking him for it. I'm just saying,
And what they're referring to with a lot going on, he had threatened to leave the program due to a political and philosophical misunderstanding with his head coach, Mike Gundy. They ended up discussing it, working things out. Gundy had been wearing an OAN t-shirt, which is known as a Republican news source, and Chuba Hubbard, with the emphasis on the Black Lives Matter campaign, spoke out against his head coach. They ended up coming to an understanding, and we had him ranked as the 72nd best player on the board. We're going to take a look at his player profile here. Chuba is extremely explosive, as they mentioned, over 2,000 yards rushing in 2019. Perfect scheme fit for Carolina. We haven't seen him run out of single back too often, mainly on open sets. 740 yards as a freshman, replacing Justice Hill in spurts, over 6 a carry, 7 touchdowns on the ground, another 2 through the air. We saw that he wasn't utilized nearly as much in the receiving game this past season, his junior year, but he did have over 20 catches as both a freshman and sophomore. When we look at some of the strengths and weaknesses of Chuba Hubbard, he's got sprinter speed, excellent first step and quickness, great vision. He's an effective receiver, and he's got an excellent stiff arm. When you look at the weaknesses, of course, his production declined didn't seem nearly as confident. Mainly ran out of open set shotgun formation. Has had some trouble fumbling. Not the best blocker. Not the most powerful runner in short down and distances. And he's a bit lean, visibly lean. But he does compare to a player like Kenyon Drake. And the Saints, with pick 133, take Notre Dame quarterback Ian Book. So we had Book ranked 185, I believe, on the big board as I get back to our composite rankings. Third team all AAC, 2019 and 2020 team captain. Let's listen to them talk about Jalen Darden. Darden was a receiver drafted out of North Texas for Tom Brady. Let's hear what they say about him.
He's only 5'6", 174 pounds. Look, he came into college weighing just 157 pounds. But I'll tell you this is a guy who won on the outside lane over and over again with just blazing speed, getting off the line of scrimmage. You see it here in the highlights. If you miss the jam on him, it's over. Their RPO game down there was a very good RPO game down in North Texas, and the quarterback would miss it over and over. You see him throwing his hands up. He was just a big play waiting to happen. In Tampa, you can assume Bruce Arians will put him in the slot where he will use his ability to escape at the line of scrimmage and work in the middle of the field, where he's just going to be a nightmare safeties and linebackers.
Double-digit receptions in 3 games. The average per catch came way up to 16 yards a catch, 19 touchdowns, and he's got punt return ability. He is super explosive, 5'9", 175, former high school quarterback. A lot to like about Jalen Darden.
Darden adds what they already have going for the Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay.
So Jalen Darden last year, 74 catches, 1,190 yards, 19 touchdowns, 576 receiving yards after the catch. So an extremely productive year, incredible pick. We had him ranked much higher than some of the guys that have gone ahead of him, such as Tutu Atwell, Dwayne Eskridge, etc. So very, very good pick here. We love what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing there with Tom Brady. And the Vikings pick is in, folks. Getting back to Ian Book, we had him a bit later in the draft, but Tommy here of TD Sports Live is a big fan of Ian Book. We compared Ian a bit to a Doug Flutie type player, all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame, a bit undersized at 6 feet, but he did win captain as voted on by his teammates of the Senior Bowl this past year at the quarterback position. So a guy that is extremely intelligent, very smart, and has the ability to really take care of the football. So as you can see, we had Ian Book as the 184th best player on the board. And the Vikings at pick 134 take Janarius Robinson, defensive end out of Florida State. And we'll be right back with you folks in just a moment.
Performance hood, 702 horses, supercharged V8, runs 0 to 60 in 4.6?
It's 4.5 actually, sir.
Is that right? Well then, congrats. You've earned your way to Trucktopi.
Why should your business go hybrid? As a coach, my offense is nowhere without a solid line and agile, skilled players. I need the speed of a running back and the security of a lineman. A hybrid cloud approach with IBM gets your business both, so you can manage data and apps, whatever plays come your way.
Here, coach.
When security meets agility, you're unstoppable. Bring it in, guys, bring it in, bring it in. 1, 2, 3, hybrid!
This is for all the footballers, all the QB sidesteppers, and end zone dancers. The NFL celebrates every level of the game with leagues for every kind of player. Let's play. Learn more at playfootball.com.
Weekly grocery delivery with Imperfect Foods is not only convenient and affordable, it can make you feel good too, knowing that you're helping build a kinder, less wasteful food system. You can trust all of our products taste delicious and make an impact too. You've helped us save 139 million pounds of food and to donate to over 5,000 communities in need. People like you are making a difference simply by getting their weekly groceries delivered. Join the movement. Get 20% off your first 4 orders with code PERFECT4 at imperfectfoods.com/TV.
If you're talking. And the Titans are on the board here with pick 135. Of course, they added Bud Dupree in free agency, as well as Danico Autry from the Colts on the defensive line. We saw them most recently take Des Fitzpatrick, the wide receiver out of Louisville. The defense last year only had 19 sacks. So that's the lowest sack total by a playoff team over the last 40 seasons. So although they did address Des Fitzpatrick at the wide receiver position, they still need help there. So we'll see if any of these other players could come off the board. A player like Dax Milne, who we had ranked at 217, we did see him climbing boards late, the BYU target, who was Zach Wilson's favorite. And the pick is in, folks. They're going to take Rashad Weaver, defensive end out of Pittsburgh. We had Weaver as the 140th best player. They get him here at pick 135. He was a 2020 first team AP All-American, first team All-ACC. Rashad Weaver, folks, the latest toy for Mike Vrabel. He had 14.5 tackles for loss, which was third in the ACC this past year. And in his career had 34.5 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, and 110 tackles. And we have the Ravens back on the clock, folks. They took Tylan Wallace just a handful of picks ago. Took Rashad Bateman in the first round, really putting an emphasis on getting Lamar Jackson excellent weapons at the wide receiver position.
Pandemic recovery effort. Beautiful Saturday here in Cleveland, Los Angeles.
And we have a trade, folks. The Baltimore Ravens are trading the pick to the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals are coming up to get a guy that they like on their board. The 8-8 Cardinals have had a very active offseason. They took Zaven Collins in the first round, and the pick is in, folks. And Robert Rochelle, the corner that went to the Rams a bit earlier, we're watching a bit of tape on him, and his ability to close on the football. Looks like he's excellent in press coverage, very physical, getting his hands on receivers, and looks like he's always ripping at the ball when he's tackling. So potentially a steal here. We did not see him this past year due to the season being canceled, but Sean McVay goes and gets a corner, hoping it pans out. So the Cardinals are on the board. Zaven Collins, Rondale Moore. They had a very successful first two picks. They added, of course, J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, Rodney Hudson, Malcolm Butler, and James Conner. And after starting the season 6-3, they lost 5 of their final 7 games. So that shows you that there's a lack of maturity with the team, but there's a lot of talent. So as Kyler Murray continues to progress, Cliff Kingsbury continues to get more experience as an NFL head coach, we should see the Cardinals on the upswing. So some of the needs that they have are on the defensive line as well as the tight end position. We're going to kick it back to the boys at ESPN here for a moment as we wait to hear who the Cardinals select with pick 136.
12. Had 8 quarterbacks taken through the end of the first 3 rounds, and now the 9th quarterback has come off the board. And Notre Dame, the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history, Ian Book, is going to wear another type of gold dome and play for the New Orleans Saints.
I like this guy. I think he's a perfect fit in the 4th round, bring in as a backup. But I love the way he plays the game. I love being on the sideline as a sideline analyst and watching the energy he brings. Getting his guys going, getting his guys in and out of the huddle, just the way he plays. He's undersized. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's got good timing as a passer, and he's at his best when play breaks down. He loves taking off and running. He has a great sense inside the pocket of where the rush is coming from and how to elude the rush, and then he throws really well on the move. His coaches were always saying to me, Brian Kelly especially, saying, we just want to get them to let it rip. Just let it rip. When he does, he's very effective, and I think he'll continue to develop. Tommy Reese, the offensive coordinator, swears by this guy. He swears by Ian Book. He said he's never been around anyone who studies harder, loves the game more, and is a better leader than Ian Book has been the last 3 years as a starter at Notre Dame.
He's resourceful. He finds a way. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the big arm. His accuracy comes and goes.
Yep.
But when you need him to make the play, he'll usually step up. I viewed him as a career backup. If he's a starter, would surprise me. But obviously, in the backup role, if you have your quarterback get injured for a 3 to 5 game stretch, he'll keep your head above water.
Yeah, when you talk about being
We had Ian Book as a perfect fit to go to the Cleveland Browns as a backup to Baker Mayfield. Book, of course, gets drafted here to the New Orleans Saints, and Sean Payton adds another quarterback to the room to go with Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. So very exciting time for the Saints fans, very exciting time for Ian Book. As we said, we compared him to Doug Flutie. Has a little bit of everything, innovative player, unique skill set, very good with ball security, and extremely entertaining. Plays with a ton of heart, extremely exciting player to watch. This should be a good fit, accurate with the ball. It should be a good fit with a player like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So we like the pick. We had him graded as our 184th best player on the board. So taking him a bit earlier here at 133. But we do like the player. Had he gotten picked in the 6th round, this would have been excellent. A little too steep for us, but Ian Book, we love the player, not necessarily the value. The Saints haven't taken the best value players here, not understanding where they can get these prospects that they're taking, kind of overdrafting all 4 rounds. And here we go. We see Trey Brown, one of our favorite players, cornerback out of Oklahoma, going pick 137 to the Seattle Seahawks. So Trey was a multiple-year starter, starting 3 of 4 years at Oklahoma. 2020, second team All Big 12, had 31 tackles, 3 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, had the game-winning interception against Texas in overtime this past year, had a safety against Texas in the Big 12 title game in 2019. Had a career 141 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 35 passes defense. A very productive Senior Bowl week. Will be 24 by the time the draft, or by the time the season starts, so a bit older. But we like Trey Brown. We had him as the 109th best player, and he goes here at 137. Another player that was picked was Marco Wilson, the pick previously. We had Marco as the 179th best player, and he comes off the board. We love Marco as far as everything physically. What we have issues with is his maturity and some of the penalties that cost his team a lot of football games at the collegiate level at Florida. So he needs more discipline. That's why we had him drop down the board a bit. But he is a very talented player, so it makes sense talent-wise in the 4th round. Just maturity issues had dropped him down on our board. Here with pick 138, we have the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have taken Micah Parsons and many other defensive players. Osa Digizua, Kelvin Joseph, Chauncey Golston, really trying to address some needs. Nashawn Wright, the corner out of Oregon State, and earlier today in the 4th round, pick 115, they added Jabril Cox. So Cox was an excellent value, doing very well at the linebacker position this draft, in our opinion, here at TD Sports Live. The Cowboys have addressed the defensive side of the ball. Let's see if they potentially address the offensive side of the ball at any point in this NFL draft.
That's amazing.
Going back to the place we love, but then the sunlight comes alive. I don't need the rain when the sky is blue.
Celebrate all the months in your life with sparkling gifts from Pandora Jewelry.
T-Mobile is America's largest and fastest 5G network. And now we're America's most reliable 5G network. To celebrate, everyone can upgrade their experience with a free 5G upgrade. Trade in any working cell phone for a free 5G Samsung Galaxy. And at T-Mobile, when you switch, get unlimited 5G for the same price as a limited plan with the other guy. The free 5G upgrade. Unlimited 5G and a free 5G phone. Only at T-Mobile.
Make the world go away and get it off my shoulders. Say the things you used to say and make the world go away.
The 2021 NFL Draft, presented by Courtyard by Marriott, is brought to you by Can-Am, ATVs, and side-by-side, made for off-road living.
Back here on day 3 of the NFL Draft, Reese Davis, Mel Kiper, Tommy McShay, and Louis Riddick. Glad to have you along. Cleveland fans showing out. Mel's best available, brought to you by Courtyard by Marriott. Here's who hasn't been taken yet.
Changed a little bit, Reese. See Shai Smith, the other receiver we talked about, and Sage Surratt. So those guys we're talking about, the depth at wide receiver. That's why some are still on the board.
I love him.
Guy great.
We're into the compensatory picks. Cowboys have one. Here's Mike McCarthy.
From the Ford Center, this is Mike McCarthy with the 138th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The Dallas Cowboys select Josh Ball, offensive tackle, Marshall University.
All right, the Cowboys up to this point had taken 6 defensive guys. So Mike McCarthy said, give me that microphone, enough of this. I need somebody on offense.
Left tackle, began his career at Florida State, then goes to Butler Community College, ends up at Marshall. Run blocking, some down blocks I like, the athletic ability to get the job done in space, but the results weren't always what you hope for as a run blocker. Pass protection, like his punch, like his hand placement. He gets caught leading at times. That's an issue from a technique standpoint. Leads to some balance issues and pass pro. I think he's a work in progress, more of a developmental prospect for the Cowboys offensive line coach. Had something to work with there. Josh Ball, I think in time, may be able to push for a starting job, but certainly not right away as a rookie in the National Football League. Still a little raw, but there's some things to work with. He has decent feet, plays a little high for me, Todd. I think when you get in the NFL, these great pass rushers, he may run into some.
You're almost 6'8", you're going to tend to play a little high. He's a community college transfer from Butler Community College. Still developing, came in 2019, but there is definitely something to work with here. There's clay to be molded.
Josh Ball going to Dallas. Minnesota back at pick 134 took Janarius Robinson, defensive lineman from Florida State.
He is how you want them to look as far as edge players are concerned. 6'5", 263. 4.7 going to 40. He's a guy who gets a little frustrating though, because as good as he looks, he doesn't get the kind of production that you want. But I'm sure Mike Zimmer, if anybody's going to get it out of him, he will get it out of him. Why? Because he will show you plays like that, where he plays with great leverage, real good get off. That cornering speed, you see him there. He sinks the rip field, realizes that he's too far afield, spins back inside, finishes with the sack. He can do this all day long. Then he can stand up if you want to play an odd front and you want to play a 3-4. He'll be able to set the edge and make those point of attack plays. He just needs to make sure that he's clean with his run game team recognition. Here, that's a nice job of wrong arming that puller, coming inside and making the tackle. He has many tools that you're looking for. Remember what they did with Daniil Hunter up there when they got him from LSU. Yeah. People thought Daniil's just a good-looking player, but he wasn't that productive. He's a monster now in the NFL. Maybe they can do the same kind of thing with the guy, Janarius Robinson.
North Carolina State game, he was freaking out, but he lacks a little consistency from game to game.
He's a first-generation college graduate in his family, and he did so less than 4 years. You might recall Janarius and his family lost their home to a hurricane in 2018. There was a GoFundMe account set up that yielded more than $140,000 to help him rebuild. He's certainly been involved in the community as well. So Janarius Robinson going in the 4th round, compensatory pick to the Minnesota Vikings. The Titans had a pick just after that. Hail to Pitt, Rashad Weaver's gone.
It's always good to see the script get represented in the NFL. Okay, Rashad Weaver, I'm just going to now analyze you a little bit. 6'4", 259 pounds. He ran a little bit of a disappointing 4.83 in the 40-yard dash. He's really the kind of guy who has the frame, Mel, that maybe you can put him inside and let him rush as a 3 technique. They did a little bit of that with him down at the Senior Bowl. He's got good hand use. He's got good natural power. It's the foot quickness and the natural twitchy explosiveness that leads me to believe that he may be a guy who rushes inside and sub.
And with pick 140, the 2020 Butkus Award semifinalist Buddy Johnson out of Texas A&M goes to the Steelers. 209 career tackles, 23.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. So Buddy Johnson going to Pittsburgh. The Rams are on the clock at pick 141. And as we see, Rashad Weaver at pick 135 had gone to the Tennessee Titans, another good ad. Mike Vrabel, as we said, really addressing the defensive needs of that football team. He's running the defense. He knows they only had 19 sacks a year ago. Go get some pass rushers, some guys that can frustrate a quarterback. And the pick is in for the Rams at 141. They take wide receiver Jacob Harris out of UCF. So Harris didn't make it in our top 250. As you can see, some of the wide receivers we still have listed here. He had 30 catches, 539 yards, and 8 touchdowns this past year. Jacob Harris with a career 49 catches, 987 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So a bit rich for some of the picks that the Rams have taken offensively, taking Tutu Atwell yesterday in round 2. And the Packers pick is in, folks, at pick 142. Perhaps somebody to protect Aaron Rodgers with the pick, or an option to get the football to down the football field. We do like Cade Johnson, who's available at the wide receiver position. Had a very good Senior Bowl. Another player that stands out is Marquez Stevenson. Now, these players we have a little bit further down the board. Cade Johnson at 164. But with the way that wide receivers have been taken today and basing it off of scheme fits, these are guys that could fit in well with the Packers. As we look at some tape of Marco Wilson, I had mentioned him earlier as a player that lacks some discipline. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So like I said, all the measurables, the athleticism, his ability to come downfield and hit at the cornerback position is fantastic. Very short tackler. Just need to see a lot of maturity at the pro level. Hopefully that's come. Lessons are learned as you make those mistakes. So we'll see what Marco Wilson can do. Had a very productive career at Florida. Excellent closing speed, breaking on the ball, and we'll see how that transfers to the NFL. And the Packers at pick 142 add Royce Newman, a guard out of Ole Miss. So as we mentioned, the offensive line, losing a guy like Corey Linsley, they now go get a guard. 32 career starts at the college level, and they get somebody who can protect Aaron Rodgers. We had Royce as the 212th best player on the board. They get him here at pick 142 of the 4th round, and we have the New York Jets on the board. And the Jets thus far with new general manager Joe Douglas have addressed the offensive side of the ball with quarterback Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera-Tucker, Elijah Moore, and Michael Carter. So consistently getting weapons on the offensive side of the ball thus far in the draft. They also added Corey Davis as a free agent at the wide receiver position. So really trying to build up a team for Zach Wilson. So let's hear the breakdown briefly on Trey Brown, the Oklahoma corner, who was drafted just a few picks ago, a player that we really, really like. Thought he was an excellent value here in the 4th round. Somewhat similar to a Malcolm Butler type player.
And as far as making sure they stay in contact with receivers down the field, that's what happens with Trey Brown. He's better up at the line of scrimmage. He's got great feet. He's got great mirror ability at the line of scrimmage. He can flip his hips. He can run. He can carry vertical routes. He can cover the post. He can cover the go routes. He can cover the deep 7 routes. But it's just finishing that last third of the down. And when you're 5'9", 185, and you play on the outside like he did, that's where you're playing against the high risers out there. So he's going to have to learn how to be able to come up with PBUs and not get pushed around down the field.
Yeah, that's right. One of the great moments for Trey Brown was that interception he had against Sam Ehlinger to finish up that overtime victory that the Sooners had against their arch rival Texas. Maybe it'll be Sam Ehlinger at some point to be the next quarterback.
And as you heard Reese Davis talking about Sam Ehlinger, that is a player that we thought would be off the board by now. Had him ranked as our 4th best quarterback. Didn't anticipate him going as highly as we had him graded. If you heard Bill Belichick talk about breaking down how the draft works, as he was questioned yesterday at the press conference, you could hear similarly how we do our draft big board, how he feels about it. So as I bring up that article, Belichick talks about how they have grades on players, but that's not all they have. That the evaluations are much more complex. So a player like Najee Harris, if we had 8th, we wouldn't take him 8th overall, knowing the value at the running back position isn't quite that high. But we do think he's going to be the 8th best player. So you grade the player, but you have to understand that the value weighted by position, etc., definitely has an impact. So Belichick, when asked about his grading system, said he's not trying to be evasive about the grading and all of that, but he would just say that we don't grade players like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just not the way we do it. We use a combination of numbers, letters, colors, and those things all have different meanings depending upon what they would indicate about the player's circumstances or situation or whatever it is involved with that player. And all the players are different, and a lot of them, in the end, there really aren't that many of them that come to school, play their career there, and leave. There's things that happen in between in a variety of circumstances, and so we have to identify those. So sometimes the color is going to override the number. Sometimes the letter is going to override the numbers or the colors and so forth. And so it's not, this guy's had an 85 and this guy's had an 83. It just doesn't work like that. There's a number, a color, possibly a letter, or letters that go with those players, and those things could all, depending upon what they represent, override something else that's a part of the grade. So it's just really the way we identify the player and tag the player and helps us classify. Just too hard to generalize and give a player an 85 grade or whatever, and then what does that mean? But if you can tag that grade, that number grade, whatever it is, with something that would indicate other things regarding injuries, or how many schools he's been to, or whether he was a transfer, or if he came out early, or if he switched positions, or so forth and so on, played against lower level competition. I mean, there's dozens of things here that we could talk about. It becomes a pretty complex scale. So not trying to ignore with him what it is, but it would be impossible for me to sit here and explain the grade scale and how it works and interacts and all that. That takes, honestly, months of, I would say, understanding between the scouting department and working through a lot of different situations to really be able to utilize it effectively so we can categorize players in the right and what we feel is the right fashion. Not saying it is right, but we do it so we can identify things and have ways to work through players and their situations to try to have as fair and good of an evaluation on them as we can. So I would say I've never gone into a draft saying we got to draft somebody or other at this position or this group of positions or whatever. It's just sometimes those players are there and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're there and you can really use them, and sometimes they're there and maybe you don't feel that it's as necessary. But then when you get good players on your team, inevitably you use them. So I've heard that before. Why did you draft James White and he's inactive all year? Why did you draft Damian Harris and he's inactive all year? And then later on in their course of their careers, those guys are examples that became very valuable. So I think that's why you try to acquire good football players and figure it out as far as how to use them. So intricate breakdown by Coach Belichick, giving us an inside look at how they categorize their draft board and how it's somewhat fluid as far as their communication on who the pick is going to be, who they really like, etc. So it is a bit more complex than just having a player ranked 1 through 5 and, oh, well, he's the 4th best player available. You take into consideration the draft value chart as far as what you're getting on a rookie deal in the first round. You're getting that 5th year, what type of player you're looking for. You might have a player ranked 6th, but if a player at the same position is ranked 7, 8, 9, and 10, you might feel comfortable getting a player at that same position that might be ranked 9th rather than 6th in the second round as you take the best player available at another position that's relatively thin as far as depth. So those are all the types of conversations that come down once you establish a draft board into making the appropriate pick. It's not always, oh, well, he's the top player on our board, we go take him. There are a lot of different things that go into it. So the Jaguars are on the clock with pick 145, and we'll see which direction they go with head coach Urban Meyer.
And Cincinnati. Buddy Johnson from Texas A&M, a very productive linebacker for Jimbo Fisher's defense on his way to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, he really was, Reese. 163 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles the last 2 years. Think about that production. all over the field. He's strong for his size, and it's just 6'1.5", 234 pounds. He doesn't have great speed. He struggles in coverage. That's going to be the area that he's limited. But in this 3-4 system, with his instincts, his toughness, his ability to get to ball carriers, and his ability to tackle in the open field, I think that's where he can have success. And you think about Pittsburgh, they lost Vince Williams, who was second on the team in tackles a year ago. He was released. So maybe he's got an opportunity to try to vie for a starting job, if not as a rookie, but maybe down the road for the Steelers.
See him working in the bowl game there, taking down Sam Howell. Steelers with their 5 picks.
And Urban Meyer selects Luke Farrell, tight end out of Ohio State. So interesting pick. We have Luke as the 201st overall player, 2020 honorable mention, all Big Ten. A little bit older than we'd like at the tight end position. Had 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown in the shortened season this past year at Ohio State. Of course, Urban Meyer had recruited him there. 34 catches, 380 yards, and 4 touchdowns in his career. So the Steelers have taken Najee Harris, Patty Freiermuth. They continue to build, and the New York Jets are on the clock at pick 146. Let's take a look at Jacob Harris, the 6'5" wide receiver, 211 pounds, who the Rams had taken a bit earlier.
Okay, was a soccer player. Only played 1 year of high school football. Goes to Florida Gulf Coast. That was where he was verbally offered to go to Florida Gulf Coast to play soccer. Instead, goes to Western Kentucky. He's been 6'4", 190. Now he's 6'5", 220. Was actually talked into playing football. Developed at UCF gradually. Learned a lot from Gabriel Davis in 2019. And this year, he put up numbers. You go to the East Carolina game, 5 catches. Tulane, a couple catches for 96 yards. Cincinnati, a couple catches for 66 yards. He's up to 6'5", 219 now. We're at 4.39 vertical. You're talking about 40 and a half, 11-1 broad jump. There's a lot to work with Jacob Harris. Now he's settling into football. He's been in his 6th year. Was Western Kentucky, then UCF. Played special teams. Josh Heupel raved about his competitiveness, what a hard worker he was. You're talking about special teams, then the receiver scout team his first year. This kid paid his dues at UCF, and he became a major contributor this past season.
I'm a fan of the guy who threw in passes down there, too, in a couple of years, Dylan Gabriel.
Yep.
You guys going to have him up there, worried about his size a little bit, quarterback at UCF?
He can throw.
Yes, he can. Throw.
He swings it around.
Left-hander out of Hawaii. That's been effective for Green Bay Packers. Had the 142nd overall pick, Royce Newman, offensive lineman from Hotty Toddy.
Yeah, raced the red shirt in 2016 and 2 years as a backup. 2019, he started off 12 games at left guard, allowed a sack. This year moves to right tackle, allowed 2 sacks. You notice the versatility around the bat. Obviously, starting to tackle at guard. But when you talk about the ability to play a drive blocker from that tackle position this year, it was effective on seal blocks, issues sustaining on drive blocks, pass protection, needs to be more consistent with his hand placement. Like the big thing with Royce Newman's going to be, he can fill in at tackle at right tackle, he can fill in at left guard. Will that versatility allow him to ever be a starter in the NFL? We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think he's gotten better. He's a former tight end, defensive end in high school. He was a 4-star recruit, smart kid. Also played basketball. Was on the, obviously very active in terms of athletic ability in high school, hoops and football. But I think the versatility is it's a backup, something that gives them some value. It gives them as an insurance policy with that line, the ability to fill in at either spot, whether it be guard or tackle.
It's interesting looking at their draft. First of all, it blew my mind that they didn't draft a receiver, that they took Eric Stokes in the 1st round. I thought it was the reach. I really did. I think he's got great speed. I understand it, but I don't know what we're not taking weapons for Aaron Rodgers and trying to make this guy happy. The guy who's MVP Aaron Rodgers, let's bring him back. I love the Amari Rodgers pick. I understand the offensive line, let's protect him. But to me, that's the biggest story probably in the NFL right now is what's going on with Aaron Rodgers.
So what do you do about it? You have all the fun.
Yeah, you know what, though? I think this is more than just about picks and trying to appease him at this point in time. I don't think that's going to get it done. I think this is something that really started, the genesis of this goes back to last year, and not communicating with your franchise quarterback. That's all you need to do. Keep them in the loop. They have earned that kind of respect. You don't have them watching TV and watching us on the draft, and all of a sudden you see the Packers have moved up in the 1st round. They've moved into the 1st round. And then you're sitting there going, okay, that's interesting. And then they pick a quarterback. And you find about it on TV, you're going, Okay, wait a second. I don't mean to sound conceited here, but I'm Aaron picking.
And with pick 146, we saw Jamian Sherwood come off the board, the safety out of Auburn, a player that we're extremely high on here at TD Sports Live. We had Jamian as the 60th best overall player, the second best strong safety on the board. It's been a slow draft for the safety position, so we should see a run coming up on these guys. Jamian Sherwood, a very, very good player, added to that New York Jets defense with Robert Saleh. Here with pick 147 for the Houston Texans, we have, and let's go to Adam Schefter real quickly before this pick comes in.
Lineman, I don't believe it would change Aaron Rodgers' mind at this point in time. There are many people connected to him that believe he's played his last down in Green Bay. We'll see whether or not that actually happens, but the Packers president, Mark Murphy, today wrote in a letter on the team's website that he publishes monthly that he's aware of Aaron Rodgers' issues. He's concerned about them. The team is working to...
And the Texans take Brevin Jordan, tight end out of Miami, a 2019 Mackey Award finalist. Where we had Brevin with a second-round grade, compare him to Janu Smith, formerly of the Tennessee Titans, who just signed with the New England Patriots. So Brevin Jordan, first team All-ACC in 2019. Sorry to cut out from Adam Schefter talking about Aaron Rodgers and potentially playing his last game in Green Bay. But Brevin Jordan, an excellent tight end pickup for the Houston Texans. They address a need. Nick Caserio hits a home run with that one, getting Brevin Jordan at pick 147 as we had him ranked 48th overall. And a recent poll has asked Aaron Rodgers fans where he will play next season. 42% say Green Bay, 39% saying an NFC team, and 18% saying a different NFC team outside of Green Bay. So very interesting. We'll see what happens with the Aaron Rodgers saga. Could potentially be moved. The reigning MVP does not seem happy with the direction that the Green Bay Packers are heading, and potentially wants to be in an area closer to where his fiance lives on the West Coast. And we have pick 148 for Atlanta, followed by Cincinnati with pick 149, and then the Philadelphia Eagles with pick 150.
Fundamental traits that are smart, their critical factors are strong, and you hope to develop them over time. You know, you might turn around and this is later on in the draft. You know, there's three phases to the game, as we all know. And if there's a Blue Goose special teams player there, he would be a strong consideration, you know, first for us late in the draft. So that's where it's at.
At the top of the draft, you took Kadarius Toney, the slot receiver from Florida. You also got Azeez Ojulari, who many people thought would go in the first round. So a couple of really strong picks early. Start with Toney. How do you see him fitting into your offense quickly?
Well, the bottom line is speed goes in this league. Everybody knows it. And he obviously has the ability to take the top off. The thing that's really unique about him is his run after catch stuff. He's built like he runs like a running back. Powerful build. He's got really good foot quickness. He can create. He's elusive. So there's a lot of really good things about Kadarius that we like. And oh, by the way, he catches the ball real well. So, you know, we're thrilled to have an opportunity that he was there for us, and you know, he can come in and help us right now.
And here at pick 148, we see Taquan Graham, defensive tackle out of Texas. We were very high on this player as well. We had Taquan listed as the 76th best player in the draft. 23 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks this past year. A captain at Texas, formerly of Temple, transferred in, made an immediate impact next to Malcolm Roach, who started this past season for the New Orleans Saints. Texas's defensive line was extremely productive this past year. Graham saw his teammate Joseph Osai go 69th overall in the 3rd round to the Cincinnati Bengals. Graham, 72 career tackles, 23 tackles for loss. Very, very disciplined player, mature leader on and off the field, a winner. So this is a very, very good pick for the Atlanta Falcons, adding TQ Graham. The Bengals here at pick 149. The pick is in, and we'll let you know what it is as soon as we can. We're going to go back to New York Giants general manager Dave Gettleman talking about the Azeez Ojulari pick. Obviously, we just heard him talk about Kadarius Toney and the direction that the Giants are heading in. And before we go back to them, the pick is in for the Bengals, a rapid-fire 5th round here, and they're going to be taking Evan McPherson. So we got the first kicker off the board out of Florida. Evan goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. They're hoping that he can be an ace. 302 points scored in his career, which is second in Florida's history. A very productive 4-year starter, Evan McPherson, 149 to the Cincinnati Bengals, the first kicker off the board. Had 450-plus made field goals this past year, which was a Florida record. Has a very big leg and obviously showed out extremely well at the Senior Bowl. He was a Lou Groza Award semifinalist this year and the premier kicker in this NFL draft.
But we really feel like we're ready to really compete, in the NFL.
Dave, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on the draft up to this point, and wish you continued success for the rest of the day.
All right, take care and God bless.
All right, it's Dave Gettleman, the general manager of the New York Giants. I have one wish for every Dave Gettleman draft pick for the rest of his career. I hope he only takes players from the University of Georgia so I can hear him say, Georgia. How about them dogs, Dave Gettleman? Go get some more.
And I'm shocked that some of the safeties are still available, folks. Not to continue to harp on these same players, but Ardarius Washington, we know he's small, about 5'7", 5'8", 175 pounds, but we had him ranked 75th on our board. Just a tremendous talent, incredibly fast, a big-time hitter, reminds us of Bob Sanders, so if you're able to get him at this point in the draft, that's an absolute steal. So very interesting. We have the Eagles on the clock here, pick 150. We have Chicago at 151, and the Denver Broncos here at pick 152. So the Eagles, of course, have Jalen Hurts address that wide receiver position with his former teammate and Devontae Smith in the first round. The Eagles have 7 picks remaining in this draft. They were 4-11-1 this past season, looking to build with a new head coach. The Super Bowl winning Doug Peterson is no longer in the building, folks, so a big turnover as far as what they've done since they won that Super Bowl. Hardly recognizable team, and they're doing a good job of rebuilding, taking a couple Alabama players in the first round, and we'll see who they add here with pick 150. We'll see what direction new head coach Nick Sirianni goes. They did add Joe Flacco as some insurance at the quarterback position, but they gave up 65 sacks this past year, which was 15 more than any other team in the NFL. They also only had 2,082 receiving yards, which was third fewest in the NFL by any group of wide receivers. So, of course, we saw them add Smith to go with Jalen Reagor, who was hurt last year, first-round wide receiver out of TCU. They have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, also a former second-round pick. So we continue to see that the Eagles are trying their best to surround their quarterback with talent. Miles Sanders has been a very good running back for them, very productive, should continue to produce. And as this draft climbs on, it's going to be very interesting to see what direction the New England Patriots go. They've had a stellar draft, in our opinion, the best draft of any team as of yet. And they're in the driver's seat as they continue to grow. They got a quarterback of the future in Mac Jones. They got the 10th overall player on our board in Christian Barmore in the second round, trading up for the player last night. Very smart move by Bill Belichick in our estimation. And the pick is in. The Eagles get Kenneth Gainwell, a very good running back. He's out of Memphis. He opted out of the 2020 season. Extremely productive as a freshman, a redshirt freshman for them. 2019 AAC Rookie of the Year. We had Gainwell as the 107th best player. You get him here at pick 150. The Eagles do an excellent job here. Had 2,069 all-purpose yards, leading all FBS freshmen in 2019. Comes from the same program that pumped out Tony Pollard, Darrell Henderson Jr., and Antonio Gibson, who was stellar last year for the Washington football team. Memphis continues to pump out NFL talent at that running back position. Gainwell will also contribute on special teams and is a very effective receiver. As we hear a brief rundown of Elijah Vera Tucker and the Jets draft, we're waiting on the Bears pick at 151.
That, you know, we all do every year on Christmas Eve. We all go to my abuela's house, have a little party there, have some good bacalao that my abuela makes, which we all love. Bacalao is like a type of fish, cod fish, and it's kind of like mixed in with like a little soup. I don't really know how my abuela makes it, but she knows how to make it. It's pretty good. I look forward to it every year. Coming from Spanish heritage, you know, that means everything to me. There's not too many of us in the NFL, so you know, it's pretty important to me, especially, you know, my last name, Vera Tucker, being able to put my name on the map. Also being able to represent my African-American heritage, too, is also important to me. I'm a big family man. Love both sides of my family very much.
Between the parents and step-parents of Vera Tucker play close to his home against Cal, there was like 50 people in the stands to watch him. Tyree Gillespie, safety from Missouri, loves shoes. Maybe he can afford to buy a few new pairs as he is on his way to Las Vegas.
Yeah, he also loves to hit. And I'll tell you this Alabama game, straight out the gate, he was running people down. Hey, yes, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Najee Davenport, he put hits on all of them. And this is a guy, when he comes from deep, whether it be in cover 4 or be in the middle of the field, this is a guy who will insert against the run, and he will insert with authority. In the back end, he has the ability to play that split safety defense and make breaks on intermediate routes, whether it be intermediate digs, slants, posts. He has a real good feel for doing that. He needs to clean up his tackling fundamentals, make sure that he's coming to balance and he's wrapping up, keeping his...
And with the 151st pick, we see the Bears go to the offensive tackle position with the 19 career starting player, Larry Borum. Not a bad pick, folks. We had Larry a bit lower down the board, but Chicago goes and addresses a need at the tackle position. So now with the 152nd pick, we have Denver on the clock. 3 minutes between picks here as the rapid fire continues to grow. And they're showing the Raiders draft board in their draft room. They've been extremely excited all weekend. It's interesting. They made one great pick yesterday, really getting a great value at the top safety in the draft, Trayvon Morey. But beyond that, they've been celebrating a lot of bad picks, in our opinion, not understanding what the value is all about. And this has been a consistent theme, taking Henry Ruggs as the first wide receiver off the board just a year ago over CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Not something that we necessarily agreed with. Taking Damon Arnett, 19th overall. Guys like Clelin Ferrell, 4th overall. Jonathan Abram, late first round. So not always against the player that they're taking, just not understanding their philosophical team-building approach, considering they took Alex Leatherwood, 17th overall this draft after trading Trent Brown for a 6th-round pick. So not necessarily the value we'd be looking for. And the pick is in for the Denver Broncos. We're watching some highlights of Joshua Kendo, who was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs earlier. The big 6'6" defensive end from Florida State. Disappointing year for Florida State, of course. Underachieved. Guys like Marvin Wilson didn't have the seasons that they were expected to have, and that team has completely struggled. So we saw Florida State pump out Cam Akers last year, who was an underrated prospect coming out, was stellar for the Rams as a rookie. And we're going to see Tamorrion Terry, a wide receiver at 6'5", who's undervalued in this draft as well, who had an excellent start to his career at Florida State. But since Jimbo Fisher has left, we've seen that program really trudging through the mud. So the Chiefs have taken Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Joshua Kendo. So they've done an excellent job, in our opinion. 3 value players. Nick Bolton at 58. We had a 27 overall player grade on him. Creed Humphrey going 63. We had him as a 21st player in the draft. And Joshua Kendo, we were not quite as high on. but he's a high upside player, kind of like who they had taken last year in Willie Gay. So let's hear a little bit about tight end Luke Farrell heading to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Listen, this guy he's got the size at 6'5", 255 pounds. He's not going to ever be a big-time pass catcher. That's the whole deal. He's 4.88 speed. He's not explosive, but he will catch the ball a little bit underneath and do a decent job in contested catch situations. But what I love about him is that he's got value because of his inline blocking. How many guys can you say in the college game that can come in and be an immediate starter in terms of an inline blocker and can provide that value? He's tough, he's physical, he takes great angles. I love the way he finishes. And the other thing that I noticed from watching tape, you got to throw in the special teams tape with this guy because he will contribute in that area. So you get a fourth rounder who can come in and block, maybe catch an occasional pass, but also help on special teams right away.
There are not a lot of those guys left now.
Exactly.
They're willing to do it, capable of doing it, have shown it at the major college level. Luke Farrell has that ability.
And with the 152nd pick, John Elway goes ahead and takes Caden Stearns, the safety out of Texas, a former five-star recruit out of Cibolo. He stayed at home in Austin and had an incredible freshman year, was a 2018 Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Had interceptions very early in his career there, and then we did not see plays on the ball. He was first team All Big 12 that freshman season. Saw a steep decline due to injury woes in both his sophomore and junior season. Opted out of the final two games this past year, but had a career 173 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 5 interceptions. After his first year, I thought he would have been a first-round pick. Of course, he has slid tremendously over the past few years. So Jamie Sherwood, 6'2", 220. We talked about him a bit earlier. We're going to get a breakdown from Mel and the boys. Big-time prospect for us. We had him as a second-round grade, and the Jets pick up a good one.
Be an outside linebacker, real linebacker. I'll tell you what, this kid is a football player, didn't run great. Ran more like a linebacker, obviously, than safety. That's the concern. So if you want to drop weight, I think he could still be a safety, but if you want to put him up, get him up to 235, he's close to it now. You got a guy who will tackle in space, very instinctive football player, plays with that warrior mentality. I love this kid. I thought he played lights out this year, and I'll tell you what, Todd, what do you think he is? Is he a linebacker or is he a safety?
I think he's today's NFL. I think it doesn't matter what you call him. I think you can play him as a nickel linebacker, or a dime linebacker. You can play him as a strong safety, whatever you want to call him. This guy can play football. He loves playing football. And what I loved about him is his finishing ability.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, Robert Sutton will put him down in the box. He'll find a spot for him. He'll just keep him down here around the line of scrimmage. You don't want to park him on the hash and the half. You don't want to put him in the middle of the field. You want him down around the line of scrimmage where he's going to put those pads on people. And he's going to turn that ball over and give it back to that young quarterback until he has some more reps. Right? Isn't that what we talked about, getting these quarterback reps?
That's a great draft for Joe Douglas.
Oh, of course it is.
He's killing
doing work. They're doing work.
And they have 20 picks in a 2-year span. So they have a pick.
And everything that they've been doing there with the New York Jets beyond Zach Wilson, we've agreed with. Getting Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, Jamie and Sherwood, all good value picks there for the Jets. Doing an excellent job in free agency as well. We've really liked all the moves they've made except for trading Sam Darnold to go with Zach Wilson. Now, if they had traded Sam Darnold, the pick we liked and the player we liked that pick too would have been Justin Fields. So now we're going to take a look at Brevin Jordan, tight end out of Miami, a Janu Smith type player, 6'3", 248, heading to the Houston Texans.
This past season, he's going from the U to Houston.
Yeah, I mean, talk about labels. Is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? As Kuiper likes to call him, he's a pass-catching entity. Receiving entity, sorry. I misquoted you. But they did a great job, Miami did, of utilizing his strengths. You see him here getting off the line of scrimmage. He's so explosive as a pass catcher. He caught 105 passes for 1,358 yards and 13 touchdowns during the past 3 seasons. This guy's kind of the most overlooked tight end in the class. I actually thought he would go in the 3rd round. He's never going to be a great blocker, but he is your classic F tight end, as we call it. You flex him out, you can create some mismatches with him, and I really think He has a good sense of running routes versus zone and man coverage, and he's got very soft hands.
Well, just think about this. Think about Nick Casario, where he comes from, what they like to do, what do they like to emphasize on offense. They like to emphasize the middle of the field, exactly. With guys who are hybrid players like this, David Culley is the wide receiver coach by trade, the head coach now for the Houston Texans. He knows how to utilize receiving entities, Mel, like him. So I think this is, this is good collaboration. You can tell that's going on between front office and coaching staff in terms of the people that they're picking.
Brevin Jordan, #1 ranked tight end in high school recruiting class. You saw that. Also in that class, Kyle Pitts.
And Jordan was a 3-time All-ACC selection, so this has been a very productive player. We had him, as we said, at pick 48. You get him there at pick 147, a very good pick for the Houston Texans. They've addressed that offensive unit with Davis Mills, Nico Collins out of Michigan, and Brevin Jordan. And the pick is in, folks, for the Cleveland Browns here at pick 153.
In the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns
select Tony Fields.
Again.
Select Tony Fields.
Linebacker.
So we have Tony Fields coming off the board. The transfer, we had Tony a bit lower at 226. The West Virginia product really had an incredible year transferring in there. It was a tremendous scheme fit in the Big 12. Honorable mention this past year.
Hearing is fun. He's going to fit in well. Reese, Arizona, West Virginia, doesn't matter where it is, he's making tackles. Todd said, well, you don't have to be this or that now for the NFL to be a linebacker. You don't have to be the run stuffer. You don't have to be 240 pounds. Tony Fields isn't the prototype, typical 1985, 1990, 245-pound thumper. What he is a guy who has great range. He's a guy who found the football. His read-react skills are outstanding. His speed to the football to get the job done is top-notch.
So the reason we had him a bit lower, we didn't see him playing at this elite level at Arizona. Definitely exploded in his first year at West Virginia. Always a productive player, but not quite the short tackler that we saw this year. Made a lot of plays out in coverage. What we are a bit lower on him for is the fact that at 220, not necessarily a burner and not the biggest player in the middle of your defense. So the pick makes sense. Going with a guy like Owusu Koromoa, similar in size. Obviously, this is not as talented player as Owusu Koromoa, but similar style athletes that can go out there and have very good versatility against both the run and the pass. So the Jets are on the clock again here with pick 154. As we said, they've hit an absolute home run this draft. So we'll see where they go with pick 154. Lots of good talent still available on the board.
Well, they got two guys right now who, if you switch their jersey numbers to a 20 number or a 30 number in Owusu Koromoa and Fields, you go, well, they're just strong safeties. Yeah, they're defensive backs. But you put 50 number on them, you go, hey, they're linebackers. That is today's NFL, right? Those interchangeable type of players.
Sometimes you look at the draft players that they pick, and you can figure out what these teams are trying to do in terms of where they're trying to improve. And clearly, they need more versatility and need to be more multiple on the defensive side.
You see Landon Collins with Washington maybe moving to linebacker.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that. Those combo guys. That's why Jamian Sherwood, to me, is the kind of guy for today's NFL. It's not 1985, 1990. It's a different game now, and you have to adjust. That's why Tony Fields.
All right, and the Jets do it again. They take another Michael Carter. So this Michael Carter is a safety out of Duke. Of course, they had taken the running back Michael Carter a round prior. In the fourth there, the running back out of North Carolina. So 41 tackles, 2 interceptions, 10 passes defense this past year. We're going to kick it back to the guys to hear about Taquan Graham, the 6'3", 292 tackle out of Texas, defensive tackle, and what they think about this pick.
Against the Cowboys, he had 5 tackles, but he had 3.5 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He had a sack and he had a fumble recovery. He'd have been as active in that the rest of the year as he was in that game. You'd have been talking about an earlier round draft choice. When he plays with the right leverage, he can shed, he can chase, he can run on power on occasion. He's not going to live by dominating at the point of attack. He's not a great pass rusher on any stretch, but I think he showed it again. That's what you're getting now on day 3 of the draft. Guys that show flashes of brilliance, but they don't have the consistency from game to game. If Graham, we talked about coaching, leveling it off. Don't just go from dominating to disappearing. Go out there, play to your maximum ability week in and week out. Falcons celebrating. Would you spend a draft pick. Third day, 5th round on a kicker. The Bengals in the 5th round take Evan McPherson out of Florida.
And as we see the 49ers on the clock here, they took Trey Lance in the 1st round. They gave up quite a bit to bring in Trey Lance. It was the first quarterback they've taken in the 1st round since Alex Smith, number 1 overall in 2005. Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, missing 23 games in the past 3 years. It looks like they are going to hold on to Jimmy G at least for 1 more season. But by giving up all these picks to go get Trey Lance, it makes each one of these draft picks more and more crucial. They really need to hit on these later round picks to ensure that they have a full football team with the amount of money that they've invested between assets and cash at that quarterback position. So the cupboard is a bit bare based on what they've done. We'll see what the San Francisco 49ers do here at pick 155 with the Dolphins and Minnesota Vikings following them up with the next 2 picks. Lots of talent on the board, still available, and the Niners pick is in. All right, and with the 155th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Kyle Shanahan and the John Lynch-led San Francisco 49ers select Jalen Moore, guard out of Western Michigan. So we're seeing a big run on small school players in this draft. 2019, 2020, second team All-MAC. They address the offensive line here once again. Trent Williams locked in. They extended Mike McGlinchey's 5th year. They exercised the option here earlier today. It was announced. And we have a trade, folks. Miami is trading pick 156. And let's see who's moving up to get this pick. The Pittsburgh Steelers have moved up to pick 156 with the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers 12-4 a year ago. And let's see who they have their eye on here. Leapfrogging above Minnesota and Carolina to make this pick. And the pick is in, folks. And as we look at Mel Kiper, who we always have a good time watching year in, year out here at the NFL Draft, 38th consecutive year doing the draft for Mel. He's done 312 rounds live on ESPN and predicted over 10,000 NFL draft pick selections. So Mel is a Hall of Famer and a legend, and that's for sure. So we're going to listen to them talk about Kenneth Gainwell, the explosive running back out of Memphis we talked about earlier, the 5'8", 200-pounder that can play a little receiver and is a dual threat, over 2,000 all-purpose yards in 2019 as a redshirt freshman.
2019 to 2018, this kid ran wild. He caught the ball out of the backfield. He was a touchdown waiting to happen, Luke. 4.47 speed. There's not much separating Kenny Gainwell from a Michael Carter. They're very, in terms of speed, size, very similar there. He was a game breaker on both catching the ball and running with the football. Like Kenny Gainwell was a high school quarterback at Memphis. Like I say, it's easy to forget how good these guys were, the guys that opted out.
Yeah, what was interesting about him is that being at about 200 pounds, 201 pounds, what he weighed in at, the first thing that jumped off the screen at you is his lower body balance, contact balance, the ability to run through arm tackles. I mean, it was amazing to me. His receiving ability out of the backfield, they'll put him in the slot, he can run the entire route straight from there. You see the ball security, he doesn't put it on the ground, he runs with it like Tiki Barber, keeps it real high.
An excellent draft for the Eagles. Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, and then you go ahead with Zach McPherson and Kenny Gainwell. So Gainwell adds some versatility in a very fast backfield with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. So lots of weapons there for the Eagles. The pick is in for the Steelers, who moved up with the Miami Dolphins to get this selection. And let's see who they take. Of course, the Steelers kept Juju Smith-Schuster on a one-year deal, so he could hit the market in just a year from now. And they take Isaiah Loudermilk, the defensive tackle out of Wisconsin. So Loudermilk had 13 tackles this past year, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. I had him as a 7th-round grade. So to move up to get this player, they must really think he's a great scheme fit. As far as his size and height, he's a guy that does fit in with the big boys like the Cam Haywards of the world. Stephon Tuitt, 63 career tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 7.5 career sacks. And the Vikings are on the clock. The pick is in. We have Dick Vitale on commercial here.
Too much?
I think we got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
More than burritos.
And you got to love Dickie B. And the pick is in for the Minnesota Vikings here at pick 157. And the Vikings get Amir Smith-Marset, a three-time honorable mention, all Big Ten wide receiver out of Iowa. We weren't quite as high on him, had him as a 6th or 7th round grade. What we do like about him quite a lot is his special teams ability. So he averaged 28.7 yards per kick return. That, to us, is what's going to translate best for him at the pro level, a tremendous kick returner. So 3,400 career all-purpose yards, which is 10th in Iowa's history. Very productive at the college level. As we look at some of the wide receivers that we have above Marset, that would be Sage Surratt, Tamorian Terry, Trayvon Grimes, Daz Newsome, Warren Jackson, TJ Vasher, Simi Fehoko, Dax Milne, another guy that we think is going to be excellent on special teams, Cornell Powell out of Clemson, the speedster from Houston, Marquez Stevenson. Lots of good talent still at that wide receiver position. A very deep draft at that position. And with the Panthers on the clock, we have the Chargers following them, and then the Baltimore Ravens at pick 160. Lots of good safeties still available, folks. Surprised we haven't seen one come off the board as of yet.
Give mom the power to be her strongest. Purchase Tonal from Motherset and receive a Theragun Mini.
Today is a day of applaud. The guy a half second too slow, a dozen pounds too light, MRI with one too many red flags. Maybe it's a character issue. Maybe the NFL scout that he doesn't flip his hips, or lats a burst, or plays like a cow on ice. There's always a problem with the day 3 pick. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lasted until day 3. But sometimes, more often than you think, the scouts are the ones with the problem. They watch, but they don't see. They time, but they don't comprehend. This is the patron saint of day 3. Tom Brady, 6th round, 199th pick of the 2000 draft. 6 quarterbacks were taken before him. Look at him. Does he look like the future GOAT? That's the beauty of rounds 4 through 7. Flawed like the 2000 version of Brady, play with chips on their shoulder pads. Davis, Allen, Sherman, Brown, Sproles, Edelman, Sharp, Leckler. The round doesn't matter. The opportunity did. The trick is to take advantage of it.
Professional wordsmith Gene Wojciechowski with some insight on day 3. Time for a draft moment brought to you by Bright House Financial. And starting on the opening night of the draft in round 1, number 1 pick Trevor Lawrence celebrating at home. You know, every one of these guys, they have a story. Everyone has something that they've overcome in their life, and they've had so many people that have helped them get to this point. And to see the players be able to celebrate and share these moments with the people who've been with them through thick and thin is one of the more rewarding things for those of us who get to cover the NFL draft every year. And no matter how early or how late, when your name's called, as it was for Larry Borum by the Bears, it's a magical moment.
Yeah, this guy's gotten better and better, and he's shown versatility. 2-year starter at Missouri. Started out at a lot of different spots. He's played right tackle, both guard spots, and left tackle. He's a right tackle and guard in the NFL. He's 6'4.5", 322 pounds. He actually ran better than I thought at 5'1" range in his pro day. He doesn't have the longest arms, and I think that's why he kicks inside the guard in the NFL. But he is strong and powerful. I love his punch. It's that 6-inch punch when he just latches on to defenders or in pass protection. He knocks guys back. I'm really impressed with Gorham in that regard. Limited athlete. He's going to have to keep working on his footwork. But again, inside at guard, he's going to be a really good fit and a starter in the NFL.
Opening up some running lane there for Larry Rountree.
Yeah.
Running back in Missouri, planned to see taken somewhere today, maybe in the 5th, 6th, 7th round area.
You see here with these picks right now.
And we had Larry Rountree, the running back Mel was just alluding to, as the 133rd best player on the board. So we haven't seen as many running backs as we expected. Could have a late run on those guys. Jared Patterson out of Buffalo leads the class that we have as far as best available. Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State, another good back who's available. Brian Robinson out of Alabama. Larry Rountree, Chris Evans from Michigan, Elijah Mitchell, Javian Hawkins, Demetric Felton, Khalil Herbert, and Jake Funk out of Maryland. So lots of good players available. Brendan James, the offensive tackle out of Nebraska, goes to the Chargers. They continue to find players to try to protect Justin Herbert. A 3-time honorable mention All Big Ten selection, goes 159 to the Los Angeles Chargers. James was a 2019 and 2020 academic All Big Ten selection. So a good combination of intelligence and a good football player. The Chargers get a player who had 40 consecutive starts, which was a record at Nebraska. So a productive player there. And we have the Baltimore Ravens on the board at pick 160. The pick is in. We'll let you know who they take. They've once again drafted very well outside of the one pick that we didn't necessarily agree with Jason Oweh in the late first round with pick 31. Oweh at 6'5", 250, had a 4.3 40, climbed up draft boards after his pro day. Unfortunately, didn't have a single sack this past year. The year prior, when Micah Parsons was out there on the defense with him, he was more effective, but we didn't see the growth that we would have liked from Oweh. We had him ranked as the 81st best prospect, and he went in the first round. So the Ravens took Ben Cleveland, Brandon Stevens, the cornerback out of SMU there in the 3rd round, and added Tylan Wallace here in the 4th round. Rashad Bateman, another wide receiver who they had taken in the 1st round. They continue to get weapons for Lamar Jackson, adding Sammy Watkins in free agency. Wouldn't be surprised if they take a tight end at some point. Still some talent on the board there. And the pick is in, folks. And the Ravens take Shaun Wade, cornerback out of Ohio State. Shaun was projected as a first-round pick prior to the draft. Consensus first-team All-American in 2020. I think there was a bad taste in everybody's mouth with him trying to cover some of those Alabama wide receivers in the national title game. He was burnt to a crisp. We had Shaun Wade as the 125th best player on the board. The 2020 Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year goes pick 160 to the Baltimore Ravens. A very, very good pick here. 2019 was a 3rd-team All-Big Ten, of course, playing opposite side of Jeffrey Okudah. This is a player that you would prefer to have on the outside. I do not see or like what I've seen on tape of him in the slot. So a good pick for the Baltimore Ravens. And we have the Buffalo Bills on the clock, followed by the New York Jets and the Washington Football Team. So a couple picks here by the AFC East. And then we'll go back to the football team. But we've had 9 quarterbacks go. We had 2 in the 3rd round with Kellen Mond and Davis Mills, Kyle Trask, of course, in the 2nd, and Ian Book there, pick 133 to New Orleans. The quarterback out of Notre Dame was a 4th rounder.
Out there,
Which way do you want it, Kuiper?
It was nice to see him do that, but it doesn't define him. It didn't define Troy Aikman losing to Rodney Peete or Peyton Manning losing to Fly. I brought that up the other day, so I don't really care about those quarterback thing.
Well, they don't play against each other.
Unless they help their argument.
Well, in that case, the narrative swung. Yeah, okay, playing with a chip, right?
That's true, because I think a quarterback's win-loss statistic in most cases is one of the most ridiculous statistics. But with the sport,
it's simply a head-to-head record because they don't play against each other. But
it wasn't like Trevor. Oh, we're gonna downgrade. That's not the case.
I know
He showed in that game, Reese, what he's made of. Well, and he's got the medal, and he's got that component.
But see,
if you doubt me, I'm gonna go. And
there's a reason. Todd made a great point, though. You'll use those head-to-head one-loss records, but it helps your argument, and you know you will. See, but it's okay.
I was not using that to show that Justin is an elite quarterback and trying to. Trevor's maybe a little questionable. Trevor is my 4th highest rated quarterback of all time, Lewis. Did you see that?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Pay attention to that?
I had no other choice. You did it numerous different times.
If those of you at home,
you're my guy.
If those of you at home perhaps have noticed that 2 hours and 40 minutes into a long day that I decided it was time to wind Mel up a little bit. You are a winner. I love the sunglasses too.
Yeah, no, man. State 3 tradition.
Future, right.
So the Buffalo Bills have definitely addressed the defensive line and offensive line. They got Spencer Brown, Gregory Rousseau, and let's go to the guys for Caden Stearns, safety out of Texas, going to the Denver Broncos.
7 pounds, 4'4" to 40, 42-inch vertical jump, something I could only dream of. He's a guy who's much better when he's coming forward, a nice clean read like this. When he can insert down into the second level, down into the box, and just let his athletic ability shine in a straight line type of format, he will make some plays. The problem is the consistency with him, particularly with key and diagnose when he is either a half-field safety, a quarter safety, or middle-of-the-field safety. The anticipation was slow. The angles were not always correct. The intensity with which you entered wasn't always at the level that you want. That's why you get drafted in the 5th round when you have these kind of measurables, because you should be better than this. He's going to go to Vic Fangio, who is a master, a defensive master, especially when it comes to cover 4 concept, as far as how we like to play them in cover 4 and what I expect from you. It's a great spot for him to go. Hopefully he can reach his potential athletically and match it up with what he does on the field.
Yeah, you drafted him here to be a sub-package player and a special teams contributor. And he can do both of those things. And you hope that you develop him into a starter. And he has the physical tools, as you talked about. And he has a lot of game experience. It's just about working on the technique and getting him to... I thought he played off balance a lot. He's got to learn to come into contact on balance a lot more.
And the thing with Caden Stearns, we had him 91st overall on the board, a 3rd-round grade, so you get him much later in the draft here. The Denver Broncos have done outstanding. They've gotten Patrick Surtain, Javonte Williams, Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, and Caden Stearns. Every one of their picks has been higher, has been a better value than what we've had on our board. Excellent, excellent job.
Now the Bills about to make one. Typical with Bills owner and president to make the pick.
Hey, Bills Mafia, Kim Pagula here. I'm here with the 161st pick of the 2021 NFL Draft. The Buffalo Bills select Tommy Doyle, tackle, Miami of Ohio.
So this is a tall guy, Tommy Doyle, offensive tackle out of Miami of Ohio, fitting in with Spencer Brown there with the Buffalo Bills, 2019 and 2020 first team All-MAC.
They're in Iowa, and now it is Tommy Doyle. His dad played baseball at Minnesota. His mother was a terrific volleyball player for the Golden Gophers as well. Now Tommy Doyle is on his way to Buffalo.
Yeah, you think that point of emphasis again, Reese, is Josh Allen. And I think that's where you talk about the offensive line and the
6'8", 320 pounds. Tommy Doyle projects as a right tackle at the NFL level. Spencer Brown, of course, who they had taken in the 3rd round, projects as a tackle as well. I saw them both as right tackles, in my opinion, so it'll be interesting to see who puts on a little more bulk and has the ability to be a stout left tackle. So we have a trade here. The Jets are trading their pick 162, but Tommy Doyle, a big-time tackle, 6'8.5", 320 pounds, a little lean, needs to improve his pad level a bit, but not a bad pick whatsoever there. Tommy Doyle going 161st overall to the Buffalo Bills. We've seen a lot of tackles getting drafted here, and a lot higher than we expected. So the Kansas City Chiefs have traded up for this pick, 162. We're going to hear what they have to say about Michael Carter, the defensive safety, heading to the Jets, as well as, of course, Michael Carter, the running back who was drafted earlier.
Duke. So, like I say, Mark Gilbert, you would have thought this would have been where he would have slotted in, but the injury concern, the durability concern prevented that from happening. Mark Gilbert still has a chance to be a good player in the NFL, but Michael Carter II kind of grew on you as you watch him. Played an awful lot of solid football for Duke, has the versatility to help in that secondary in a variety of ways. I think this is a guy that is not going to wow you over, but the consistency and the durability, being out there each and every game for a period of time at Duke, like I say, 36 career starts for the Blue Devils, some attention. I think Mark Gilbert maybe helped them because he drew everybody to that secondary, and this is where that kid said, hey, keep an eye on me as well, Todd.
Yeah, team captain, great work ethic, and he ran a 4.32. I mean, that's all these DBs are running, but a 4.32 at that position is, it gets your attention.
Michael Carter II was the second Michael Carter in more ways than one. Michael Carter, the running back, from just 7 or 8 miles down Tobacco Road from Durham, North Carolina. Michael Carter, the target running back, 107th overall to the Jets, and then Michael Carter, the safety, went to the Jets with the 154th overall pick from Duke. 49ers take Jalen Moore, offensive lineman from Western Michigan.
Yeah, he had a really good career. And you look at what he was able to do. He played at tackle. He's kind of a leaner when you look at him physically, but he's a guy who absolutely can play inside, I think, at guard at the next level. 6'4", 315 pounds. He has 33.5-inch arms. Again, as a tackle, you kick him inside the guard. He started his career as a defensive end, so he's still kind of developing, but he had 32 starts at left tackle, and I think he's better in pass protection, Mel, than he is in the run game. I'd like to see him be a better finisher, but he really does a good job for his size and for not being an elite athlete, but just utilizing his hands in pass protection.
Great, Todd. Yep. P.J. Fleck was the guy who found Jalen.
So we look at what the Niners have done, adding Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, the guard out of Notre Dame, the running back, Trey Sermon from Ohio State, Ambry Thomas, the corner from Michigan, and Jalen Moore, the guard out of Western Michigan. So they have gotten 2 interior linemen, their quarterback of the future, another running back to go with Raheem Mostert there, and Jeff Wilson, and a corner, Ambry Thomas. So a corner is definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. They still have a hole in that secondary, and we'll see what they do the rest of the draft. But the pick is in for the Kansas City Chiefs, and let's see which direction they go here. They moved up with the Jets to get this pick here at 162.
Andy Reid to make the Chiefs selection.
I would like our Darius Washington if I were them.
The 5th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Noah Gray, tight end, Duke.
Another Duke player going off the board. Noah Gray was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in his freshman year. He founded a diabetes athletes forum to help discuss and deal with it. He's done so effectively. An effective player for the Blue Devils and a chance to contribute with the Chiefs.
Yeah, basketball as well in high school. His father, Jason, played hockey at Plymouth State. He developed Noah Gray into a really good receiving tight end. At Duke, 29 catches, took about 51 in 2019. I was impressed with him against Notre Dame. He had 5 catches in that game. Same thing against Boston College. Smart kid, competitive. Needs to add a little strength. Great hands. Plays a little faster than at times. Shields the defender as a block.
And we didn't have Noah Gray on our draft board. We project him more as a wide receiver. We don't see him, despite his 240-pound listing, having the ability to line up on the line and block whatsoever. So this is purely a receiving tight end, in our opinion. An extremely poor man's Kobe Fleener. We don't see him being utilized in any type of protection. And the pick is in for Washington here at pick 163. As they're going to talk us through Isaiah Loudermilk, who had been picked out of Wisconsin to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 6'7", 275-pound guy, as I said, will fit with those tall monsters on that Pittsburgh defensive line.
So with that height and that wingspan, get in that backfield at 6'6", and with that length, that's a factor that you talk about really in terms of not authority, beat the center guard, but you can at least back down passes, and that quarterback's going to know those throwing lanes will be disrupted by Isaiah Loudermilk. So I think he made his presence felt enough to warrant draft consideration. I thought it'd be a late rounder, priority free agent. A little surprised he went this early, but I think that length and that ability, because of that height and the way he utilizes that, he reads that quarterback's eyes, gets the hands up at the right time, and he made his presence felt in a number of games for the Badgers.
Amir Smith-Marset, who finished up his career against Isaiah Loudermilk, on his final play injured his ankle doing a flip into the end zone. An Iowa receiver is a guy who can make plays down the field.
Yeah, he is. He's a vertical threat. He's a big-time playmaker.
And folks, we're going to be wrapping up part 1 of NFL Draft Day 3, and we'll be starting up part 2 in just a moment, so bear with us.